You guys tell me if you notice anything interesting.
I bring my opener to do a Tim Dillon and Friends show. He's having a rough set. I'm sitting on the balcony watching him. I feel an energy behind me. Rogan is standing there watching him bomb like this. Rogan goes, he's bombing, man. He can't be here. And I go, I know. I'm getting him off right now. And I literally, I run at him immediate and I go, light him now. He gets like, what's going on? I go, light him now. He got off. He goes, yeah, it was a little tough. He was still smiling. I go, no. Here's the thing. I go, you gotta go right now. He goes, what do you mean? My bag's in the green room. I go, Joe is unhappy and it looks really bad for me. Get the out.
Now look, obviously this is a comedian performing in front of a crowd, so we don't know exactly what's true and what's exaggerated, right? But I do believe that Joe was watching Tim's opener bomb and told Tim he can't be there. And I damn sure believe that Tim would be afraid enough of Joe to cut his opener set short and kick him out of the club. Now my thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the whole point of this club was to create a place for comedians to go and work on their new material without having to worry about the terrors of cancel culture. But you're immediately freaking out and shutting down a young comedian as soon as he starts to struggle. How does he not see how hypocritical this is? Especially when you've been doing stand-up for 30+ years and you're still this bad at it.
Not funny!
Now, I personally have never been a huge fan of Joe Rogan's
This guy
stand-up.
sounds like
I
a
always
hater.
found the consistent yelling and the stool to be obnoxious and unnecessary. But Joe put out a special recently that a lot of people are saying is one of the worst of all time, and I would agree. Now, for obvious reasons, I'm not gonna break everything down joke by joke, but there were a few major ups that little Pussycat made that make his 4.9 on IMDb a generous rating. Number one, he bombed hard and often.
Trans women are women. How about most? How about almost all? You gotta leave room for crazy.
Oh wow.
As someone who's done stand-up and bombed before, I get it. That shit sucks.
It makes you feel like a worthless asshole publicly begging for the acceptance of a group of strangers that not only don't think you're funny, but wish you were never born. Now, my favorite comedians are so good because when they bomb, which they all do, they tend to not give a shit and just keep going. But Joe Rogan is weak and instead panicked and abandoned his set. The set that he had been working on—
I feel like bombing during a special is kind of strange too, because like, aren't those audiences for specials super warm anyway? Like, don't you go there expecting to kind of get glazed because everybody knows you're recording a special and shit? I feel like those are usually warmer audiences.
for years and was so proud of, apparently.
I've seen your set. It's really funny.
It's tight now. It's good. It's like, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, Joe. We could tell. I can already hear you guys. Kamal, how are you so sure that this bald imp abandoned his set? Well, I know because right after one of Joe's bombings, he commits another cardinal sin and reused a joke from a previous special.
I've only been caught once in my whole jerking off career, but it was by my wife, and she was so upset. She goes, I can't believe you did it while I'm at home. And I'm like, I do it while you're sleeping right next to me. I do like this, like, I do tiny strokes as to not wake the master. I do it while you're sleeping right next to me. Tiny strokes as to not wake the master.
Really? This is the guy who's always talking about hard work? It's been 6 years since your last special and you're reusing jokes? Most good comedians, once their special comes out, they don't even reuse that material for shows, and they damn sure wouldn't reuse it for another special. That's like a musician releasing a new album and reusing songs they put out 6 years ago. The only thing worse than reusing jokes from an old special is stealing jokes from another comedian, and it looks like our friend Joe did that too. And not only did he take a comedian's joke, but he took a joke from Brendan Schaub.
Allegedly.
I wish I was gay. It looks way easier.
My life would be so much easier if I was just gay as shit.
You're hanging out with only guys, no one can get pregnant.
We'd work out. At night, we'd f each other.
Now, in fairness to Joe, I don't know if he actually stole these jokes from Brendan. The jokes are really similar, but they're not exactly the same, and they're damn sure not anything groundbreaking. But what I am sure of is,
isn't it kind of dumb to judge a comedian on anything besides their monetary success? Like for something as subjective as comedy, if Joe is able to fill arenas and make his fans laugh, I really don't understand the point of making fun of him. I mean, it depends. No, I wouldn't agree with that. I don't know if subjective is the right word or relative. Is comedy subjective? It kind of is, but like you can evaluate comedians on I guess it is like music. I think you can objectively evaluate comedians in some ways and still find them funny or not funny. Yeah.
Is that if you've been doing stand-up comedy for 30 years and you have any kind of overlap with Brendan Schaub in your comedy special, you're fucking up.
For those of you who don't know, Brendan Schaub is regarded as one of the worst comedians.
Yeah, like I would say just making money doesn't make you good at something, because I could use myself as an example. I could probably sell out more than 99% of comedians in the world, because most comedians are like in clubs that you've never heard of before just trying to make it, but I have like an audience of like YouTubers. But does that make me a good comedian? Like, no, right? Like you get any popular person, somebody in chat said Selena Gomez could sell out like any comedy club and go do stand-up. Does that make her a good comedian? No. I mean, you can, yeah.
Fucking up.
For those of you who don't know, Brendan Schaub is regarded as one of the worst comedians.
This critique applies to every form of media. Also, Joe props himself up as one of the greats, so he's more subject to those critiques. If that was true, then I'd agree with it, but is that true? And listen, nobody hates Joe Rogan more than I do, but does Joe Rogan actually say that he's a great comedian? I feel like he always just says he's always wanted to be a comedian, or he's always wanted to make it as a comedian. I don't know if he considers himself a great comedian. Maybe he does. Maybe some people feel like I don't feel that
For
way.
those of you who don't know, Brendan Schaub is regarded as one of the worst comedians, if not the worst comedian of all time. I mean, this is a man who can barely speak the English language, let alone write a competent joke.
They break the world into conspiracy therapy. Those guys, everything's a conspiracy.
And the special that Joe took this from is Gringo Papi, the worst stand-up special of all time. Honestly, calling it a stand-up special is disrespectful.
It's Mexican cookie. What are you talking about? It's like a chocolate chip with salsa all over it. What are you talking about?
It's a YouTube video. Let's call it what it actually is, a shitty YouTube video. There are dozens of videos on this website talking about how shitty that YouTube video is. So the fact that Joe Rogan, the man whose biggest moment in comedy was attacking Carlos Mencia for stealing jokes, was caught stealing jokes from Gringo Papi, really shows not only where Joe's at in comedy, but in life. Because if it were me, and I understand how easy this is to say from the comfort of my own bedroom, but if it were me, I would rather be on stage with piss running down my leg and tears pouring from my eyes than to get caught stealing jokes from a doofus like Brendan Schaub.
So you do that History Channel show, Hunting Hitler.
That was fun.
Did you ever find Hitler?
Yeah, so he died.
He tries to seem humble, but he lumps himself in the category of comedians like Burr, Norm, etc. I'm referencing the comment of when he said something to the effect of, there's only 200 of us even left these days. Okay, several people have said this, so maybe he has said comments like that, and that's pretty memey.
No way in hell I'm going out like that. 30 years of comedy and I'm stealing from somebody who can't even speak English? Fuck no. I would rather die. I was thinking a lot about how Joe got to such a dark place, and I think the channel Comedy Enforcement has a theory that makes perfect sense. Since Joe's purchase of his new club, the Comedy Mothership, he's probably only been doing stand-up there, where 99% of the people there would be willing to sacrifice a small Mexican child just to be in the presence of their favorite closeted primate.
I'd like to feel a dick inside me.
So he's not gonna know how good his jokes actually are until he gets in front of a crowd of regular human beings. People who don't breathe through their mouth and can read and write and aren't waiting for months at a time to see Tony Hinchcliffe talk about how awesome and definitely not gay he is.
I'm a gay
My guess is by the time Joe got in front of those regular people, it was too late. He was already recording his special live, and he found out in real time that his jokes are ass, and he pivoted. And normally, even if you're only practicing
Okay, is this Joe Rogan special on YouTube?
in front of your diehard friends, you'd have at least one more thing to stop you from a humiliation like this. Your comedian friends. People that can pull you to the side and say, hey man, these jokes are objectively bad. Only the people stupid enough to continue to watch your dog shit podcast in 2025 think this shit is funny. As soon as you get in front of regular people, you are going to embarrass yourself. Take some time and write better stuff. Or, you know, they could say it in a nice way or whatever, but you get what I'm saying. But unfortunately, most of Joe's friends are total cowards. These are people who will not only swallow whatever it takes for a chance to get on his podcast.
Fuck, it's on Netflix? I don't know if I can stream it on YouTube then. I feel like I get in trouble.
But are also some of the worst comedians of this generation.
Give me that milk.
Well, that was disturbing to see, but you know what's virtuous and true? Having a great wallet.
Now, for those of you guys who know me, you know I'm not one to spend money on things. I mean, I've been wearing these same 5 t-shirts throughout every single one of my videos, but when I find a good deal, I take advantage. And this Extra Wallet Pro is a great deal, especially now. Out of the gate, it's backed with a lifetime guarantee, so if you get this wallet, you'll...
$10 donor from Julio Merida. Hey, I'm not promoting or nothing, but I have the best Fortnite and COD clips on my YouTube channel. Oh, shit. Wait, do you really, though? Home invader jump scare.
I'm with you.
Enemy in center.
I'm with you.
I think the earbuds are flipped.
Jeez, that was crazy, dude. I got jump scared. Modern Warfare much? Question mark.
Go behind you. Yeah.
Oh my god! Boom! Headshot! Ah, fucking campers, dude. Where is this guy?
We're planted. I'm planted. Start the clock.
Nice. Setting up his next clip. Okay, we're done with that.
Never have to buy a wallet again. So in my eyes, it's already way more valuable than anything any of these in your hand. You can like because I've had slimmer wallets for a while. If you want to be even more secure, you can get their tracker. You just slip it into your wallet and connect it to your phone. So if it gets misplaced or stolen,
You just press the ring to find button and it starts ringing.
So yeah, guys, they are paying me, but I wouldn't be saying all this if I didn't mean it. The wallets are super well made, and you get a lifetime guarantee. Extra is giving everybody 30% off until...
Okay, can somebody give me something to spend money on besides my legal team? Okay, that is cool. I have like a nice-ish wallet, but I just don't care. None of these things are that cool. What's like some shit that you can spend money on? Oh, I guess I could just buy another gun. Never mind. Cars? The problem with cars, I feel like if I get a really expensive car, if I crash it, I'm gonna hate my life. And I just... Also, I feel like I can't drive... Like, if I had a really nice car, I feel like I'd be too scared of crashing to ever, like, do anything crazy. Like, I would just constantly be spooked. Watches? I thought about getting a nice Rolex to match the suit that I still haven't fucking worn. But even watches are fucking boring. There's a watch. It's so boring. Anime figurines. Cocaine. Okay, well, never mind. All right, back to this.
May 19th, but if you use my code Kamal, K-A-H-M-A-L, at checkout, you can save an extra 10%. So go ahead and check out the Extra Wallet Pro. Thank you again to Extra for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the world's biggest clown. The most tragic part about Joe Rogan being the biggest gatekeeper in comedy is that Joe has made it his mission to take his least talented and most obnoxious friends and help them become some of the most popular comedians of our time. The worst example of this has to be the troglodyte himself, Brendan Schaub.
Hey, can we bullying meaning, define bullying for me.
For those of you who are blessed enough to not know, Brendan Schaub is an ex-UFC fighter, turned podcaster, turned stand-up comedian, turned whatever this is.
Oh no! Yep, that's me.
Brendan's been on Joe's show more than anybody with almost 100 different appearances, and about 2 years ago was easily the most hated man in stand-up. Because
also, you guys just end up making like purple stuff, huh? Making legendary shit is cringe. I feel like there's no point to doing this. This is so much time for nothing. This is cringe.
Not only did Papa Joe hand Brendan his entire comedy career on a silver platter, but because Brendan Schaub is an unfunny, overly sensitive joke thief.
I go to Chili's and order fajitas. You know what I'm talking about, I order those fajitas, it's fucking poppin'.
You know my favorite food is? Fajitas. I love fajitas. Do you like fajitas? Have you got those? Yeah, you do, right? They're good. Because it's more than a meal, it's very exciting. When you order a fajita, you order them, and then a couple minutes later, they bring them out, and it is loud.
Those fajitas hit the floor, it's all... What the fuck, Mom? Right here, right here, right here.
Smoke, it's like 4th of July. Everyone's like, oh my God, what is that?
And again, I have to point to the irony of such a close friend of Joe's, the man who attacked Carlos for stealing jokes on stage, to be such a blatant joke thief. But I guess in the end, Brendan was just trying to be like Daddy. Honestly, I can make a 5-hour video about how dogshit Brendan Schaub is, not only as a comedian, but as a person, but at this point, there's probably over 100 videos on this website shitting on this man, so we will be moving on. Next shitty person. If Brendan was the most hated man in comedy 2 years ago, Bert Kreischer has definitely taken over that mantle this past year. I mean, the fact that this man just released the trailer for his new Netflix special, and it got 25,000 views on a channel with 30 million subscribers, and has a like to dislike ratio that looks like this, tells me that people have had enough. Okay. Bert is known as one of Rogan's death squad. Yes, that's really what they call themselves.
And first came onto the scene when Rolling Stone wrote an article about him being the #1 partier in the #1 party school.
By the way, this was during Bert's 6th year pursuing his bachelor's degree at Florida State, so already we can see that this is a man who has issues with maturity. He's kind of like Peter Pan if he was a narcissistic, overweight alcoholic who traded in their magical powers for underwhelming Netflix specials.
Did you know Julius Caesar was a real person?
Anyway, the article was huge and even caught the attention of Hollywood. Crazy enough,
the Van Wilder movies are
actually based off of Bert's life. Loosely based, obviously. After Bert graduated college, he was doing stand-up. He ended up in a movie called Hurt Bert, where he did shit like this.
That head was so big, and I didn't get like a little bit of the head on me. That whole head went into my whole side of my body, from my hip to my shoulder. I've been hit a lot.
And lucky enough, ended up being the 73rd guest on Joe Rogan's podcast, and has pretty much been a regular ever since. He was part of a segment called Sober October that had Bert, Tom Segura, NBA analyst Ari Shaffir.
I think you're mistaken in your opinion about not regulating ghost guns and AI-generated images of kids. Could you clarify your position for the optics cooks? No, I don't care. I just don't have strong opinions on either of these. They seem like things that are coming no matter what. I get it. And I don't know what you can even do to stop it. Like for ghost guns and shit. Like how the fuck would you even begin to regulate something like that? I don't know.
Here and of course, Daddy Joseph.
Are you using quality in your minors too? No, I just use productivity. Wait, could you get quality scrap? And then when you recycle quality scrap, would it always create a quality byproduct? Well, it doesn't matter because I need the holmium is my biggest cutoff anyway. And for that, it's just quality, legendary quality in these things. It just takes forever. It just sucks. Yeah, I feel like quality scrap would be a trap. I don't need that shit.
And between all the JRE appearances and the boost everybody got during COVID, Bert's pop.
Have you considered playing Fortnite competitively? I only read your dono because that guy in chat said, bro, didn't even read your message. So there, I read your message. And no.
Popularity began to skyrocket. So much so that he had one of the top 10 highest grossing comedy tours of 2024. Now, I'll say that I don't think Bert Kreischer is funny, but I can gladly say that his stand-up is nowhere near as bad as Brendan's. People aren't turning on Bert because his stand-up sucks. People are turning on Bert because they think he's a narcissistic, compulsive liar who refuses to let anyone get a word in.
What Joe does that you don't have the capacity to do is not make it all about himself.
Hold on. Fuck off. No, hold on. There's a clip. No, hold on.
There's got to be a clip out there of you not interrupting.
No.
Look that up.
I'm not interrupting. I'm having a fucking conversation. That's how conversations work.
Yeah.
Bert seems to be somebody that loves to hear himself talk, but never really has anything interesting to say. And if he is saying something interesting, 9 times out of 10, it's just a BS story that he made up to make himself seem more impressive than he actually is. Like when Bert was on a radio show and made up a bullshit story about him kicking out Creed singer Mark Tremonti out of his band.
I mean, you're in a band. Like, you ever have someone so good, you're like, oh, he's gonna realize how bad I am.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So I kicked him out. And he was like, I'm the best guy in the band. I was like, yeah, and that's why we don't want him anymore. He started a band called Creed.
Oh, no way, Mark?
Mark Tremonti, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine named Bert Kreischer who swears he was in a band with you at FSU, and you said, no, I don't think I've ever met a man named Bert in my life.
It's either that or he's saying some of the most juvenile, delusional, disconnected shit I've ever heard.
My daughters are going to be failures compared to you. They will make no one happy. I would be shocked if they get out from under my shadow. I mean, 2 white chicks, mediocre, not even that attractive.
Your daughter.
Yeah. I don't find them hot. What am I wrong?
And of course, none of Bert's shitty behavior is Joe's responsibility.
For legendary holmium upcycle supercapacitors? Really?
But I notice a pattern with most of Joe's friends that they seem to only do stand-up or podcasting not because they love it or they're actually good at it, but because they see it as an opportunity to not only make a shit ton of money, but to fill some sort of gross attention-seeking void they have.
If someone would say, yeah, stand-up can be great, but I don't want to have to need to get my energy refilled by other people's applause and approval, I would rather get that at home for my family.
I don't really like having a night off.
And no one is a better example of this than Tony Hinchcliffe. If Bert Kreischer's the most hated man in comedy now, I think the next person to have their audience turn on them is gonna be Tony. But for me, Tony is a different case because I actually think he's funny.
Believe it or not, I was born and raised in an all-black neighborhood. That's where a lot of the swagger that you're seeing tonight comes from.
That's the thing with Tony, is like just a few years ago, he wasn't this obnoxious, but lately, just like Joe, he's become absolutely unbearable. But anyway, Tony is another guy that Joe helped rise to fame. I'm like 82% sure that Tony was either gonna quit comedy or was afraid of doing comedy because of the insecurities of his gay voice, and Joe was the one that told him to pursue it anyway. And normally, I would think this was a great story because I too have a voice that's kind of gay, but I don't like Tony, so I will be making fun of him and his high levels of estrogen. And people aren't switching on Tony solely because of his raised by a single mom vibe. People are turning on Tony because his ego is out of control and because he's a fucking asshole. Look at him being a total dick to this guy on his show, Kill Tony, for no reason.
Do you have money saved up? Yeah, X amount, you know.
God, you are the worst.
Wait, am I crazy? Because I might be also, because I super just didn't, I don't think the show's funny at all, and I just don't get the vibe of it. But my impression in watching the show is the point is that they're really mean to the people that go on stage, right? Isn't that like the point? Or am I not understanding it? Oh, okay.
Somehow all your awkwardness, there's nothing likable about it. It's amazing. Like, it should be likable, but it's not.
What a B word, am I right? And the funny thing is, I actually watched that guy's set, and I don't think he did a bad job. I get why Tony didn't like it, but this guy was kind of like a different thing, you know? Like, if he was a rapper, he'd be a Playboy Cardi, minus the violence, hopefully. But like I said, low testosterone Daniel Tosh isn't just an asshole. He also has an ego that is completely unbearable. A moment that perfectly illustrates this is when Tony tried to humiliate the much more likable Jeremiah Watkins on stage last year.
First of all, let me say, this guy. This is not fair. I'm used to doing roasts that people watch. You
Takes one to know one.
Go have your magic moment. This is the biggest thing in your career. Go do it. Go get it. Go get it.
These personal ones hurt a little bit.
LOL. Wait. They're mentioning me? Kick.com/Amouranth.
That's because
just listen
it
for the
didn't
bang.
go the way that you might have wanted. We don't
You're
know.
right. I decided to wear Kevlar and charge out there. Correct.
Only because they were coming to you.
Again, I can lock that door and stand behind it. Okay? I can literally, I don't want to like reveal all the things, but there's also another exit from there. Like I can get out. Okay? But sure, like you can denigrate me and say these things about me.
I'm
but,
not saying you did. I'm saying I could see it because of the way you're acting.
You know, most people when
The
someone
way
saves
you're
their
acting
life-
tonight, because you keep saying,
Most
would you
people-
wait for me if I went to
most
jail? I'm like,
people-
why are you asking that?
most
And I remember
people-
last time you said, I wish I hadn't saved you so you wouldn't have a bond with me. That's a weird thing to say to your wife who you saved.
Most people who have their life saved by someone don't instantly flip-flop to
I didn't instantly, Nick.
Fine.
It
Okay,
has
fine.
been 2 months of you
Sure,
being kind of
fine.
shitty to me after the fact.
Fine. Sure. Yes. You know, clearly you're the only one dealing with fallout of, okay, yeah, like you're the only one allowed to feel weird and bad and do weird things, right? No one else is, obviously. Like, I can't believe, like, you're saying, like, oh, he says weird shit now. Yes, because I've been through a life and death experience with you, and I would expect that, you know, and you asked me this, which is the crazy part that you're trying to bring it up. You asked me this, I guess, to bait the answer, which is like, why do you always say the thing about ride or die, right? And I told you, okay, I'll say the story. I think it's cool.
Well, in the first
No,
I
say-
said, why do you
no,
always
no,
say
no.
divorce? And you said, because I feel this way, concept about the ride or die. And I was like, what do you mean?
Sure. I mean, that's great. I actually think it's pretty cool. Like, one of the coolest things, like, and I don't admire it. I don't think it's, like, a good thing. But I do see, like, the value in it, like, in terms of, like that level of resoluteness. Is that, like, you know, like, obviously Sopranos was big when I was younger, right? And then there were shows like Growing Up Gotti and all that, right? And anytime there was, like, a documentary thing about, like, a mob boss, right?
What are they actually arguing about, or what is?
Obviously, you know, being the whole Italian mafia thing and the made man stuff, like they married Italian women, right? And like those Italian women, like I remember seeing all these
No one
documentaries
knows.
and things
True.
where like they are so fucking ride or die for their man. Like their man is never coming out of prison. It's a fact. But they won't say one negative word. They won't dish one thing. They might be poor now, but they will not sell the story because they are not gonna fucking, you know, give it up. And like, I remember like parsing it a little bit and being like, well, why do they do that? Like this person can't even do anything for them. They're probably never gonna be with this person ever again. But it's literally because.
Good question from the subreddit. How do we push testicleless losers like Dean and the unhinged morality clout sharks out of the democratic movement? I regret being as harsh as I was, actually, because my subreddit picked up on it. Or rather, my subreddit got really harsh, and maybe I should have found a way to moderate it. I didn't mean to communicate in the beginning, and I understand I came off really harsh. But like, I don't think that Dean or Parker are necessarily like ultra super lost causes or whatever. Also, because I have to constantly keep in mind the huge age difference. So like, there always has to be like a way back. There just needs to be like the incentive structure in place right now is very toxic to always cater to the insanely crazy woke crowd. It's just not good. It's not healthy. The issue is I don't think I can offer that way out. I can't create that incentive structure because I'm so much kind of like an outsider that it can't just be like, oh, well, if you do what Destiny wants, you know, his community will like you because the rest of the internet will fucking hate you. So it can't be me that does it. It has to be like the broader party that has to recognize it at some point. Hopefully they're getting there, but.
To devote my life to one person who I can't even, you know, rest easy with, because, you know, if it doesn't serve her anymore, if she's going to be hypergamous, well, that's the end of that.
I've never been hypergamous though. I literally the one trying to stay with you while you want to flee with divorce every time you get a little bit upset.
First of all, explicitly right here, I did not accuse you of
That Harry Sisson guy kind of broke out after his
Well,
expose
don't
thing
bring it up
happened.
then.
Well,
I need to I'm trying to get him, if me and him in the next Unfuck America event that these guys are planning on doing, that would be fire. Oh, and the one guy, Adam Mockler, I'm trying to get it set up. We'll see what happens.
you know, how smart or dumb person, you know, no matter how good or bad a person, right, how notable, how famous, whatever, right, there's probably always a cool nugget or a lesson or at least a parable that you can extract from their life. And it doesn't matter how bad that person is, you know, you can probably learn something, you know, from it. And for me, it was that, like, why would you risk devoting everything to another person if you didn't even 1,000, 1,000,000% expect that person to have your back no matter what? I just thought that was such a cool concept. Everything I do is tending towards the extreme. Like, you know,
I'm crying right now,
when I make
literally.
money, I don't stop at 10
What's
million.
crazy is that you say that's the kind of love you want, and yet you don't like dogs that much. That's literally what dogs are. The dogs will love you regardless of what you do.
Yes,
and yet,
yes,
make
you're
it
right.
make sense.
Princess and Knox, sure Ryder died with us the night that you were getting pistol whipped. Oh, wait! Oh, wait!
Oh.
They just...
True.
That's not what we're talking. That's a completely
True.
different situation.
You're right. That's not the type of Ryder die.
Amouranth called the police on her husband after he charged at her. They've been arguing for 10 plus hours. Have they really been arguing for 10 plus hours?
I'm not okay with... I'm not unokay.
Holy based.
Agree that not all dogs are ride or die. Maybe Trump's, maybe Dia.
Wait, what?
Not all dogs.
This is not at all the same scenario.
Literally, it is. You said dogs are ride or die. Those are not.
No, we're saying what you want is a loyal companion.
Right, I'm saying not.
The Gen Z dude that Cam that Tim Miller does his FY pod with would be good for the Unfuck America tour. Yeah, I talked to that guy. Would he... I enjoyed talking to him, and I think it's cool that he's working with Tim Miller, who's awesome. But I got the inkling that he was significantly to the left of me on a lot of issues, so I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. But maybe, I don't know.
Let me
not will they guard
Let me
you.
redefine it then. When I say ride
You
or
don't-
die,
you didn't
I mean
define
someone
a
who's not
woman
going to
who
sit there and
protects
smile
you.
while I get robbed.
True.
Okay? When I say ride or die, I mean someone who's not going to wag their tail at the bad guy who's about to shoot me. Okay? I'm sorry. I didn't define it well.
I was being chased by 3 people.
I know, and the dogs were doing nothing.
You are not making any fucking sense,
No,
bro.
I'm literally... I'm saying what everyone else said, which I don't even like necessarily blame them,
True.
but I
Fucking
would say
true.
that, like, look,
Fucking true.
Knox and Princess are beautiful, cute dogs.
But they're worthless.
But they are not ride or die.
Yeah, they're not ride or die.
They are not.
True.
Princess,
The way you described
Princess
the woman
is,
was
you
one
give her
who
a
will
steak,
love you.
she's down. Okay?
So what do you think? Okay, what are you describing a woman ride or die as? Because what it sounded like you described was a woman who will love you no matter how bad of a person you are, and be loyal to you regardless. That is literally a dog.
It's not that. It's literally that you want a person who you can build enough reciprocity with that, you know, at some point, you know, when you realize that, you know, you might want to commit your life to this person, that it's because you know that no matter what happens, they will always try their best
I'm crying
to
right
be
now.
there for you.
I'm crying right
And
now.
I just think that that's such a seductively powerful sentiment. Like, there's so many, in today's world, there's so many things.
But the
that
thing
are
is, though,
permanent.
you
There's so
illustrated,
many
if I go to
things.
jail for
There's
20
so
years,
many
would you
things.
wait for me? I'm like, well, what
There's
did
so
you
many
do?
things.
And you say,
There's
what if
so
I
many
killed
things.
someone? And I'm like, why would you
There's
kill
so many
someone? And
things.
you won't tell me.
There are so many things.
The fuck?
Okay.
How what am I supposed to think with
Here
that?
comes another theory. Please stop with the crazy conspiracy theories.
That's
Anyway,
not. I'm quoting you.
You asked me a question and I am answering it because I try to answer questions even if they're extremely weird or whatever, but I guess you were trapping me. You said...
What?
I told you ride or die.
I want you to
True.
fucking leave. I am not trapping you at all.
I
You
said
refused
ride or
to.
die. You said, where'd you get that concept? I told you the story about how, you know, watching all that mob...
Asking a question is not trapping you. I'm trying to
I'm
understand
getting there.
you.
I'm getting there. No, you're not. You're leading. So then you asked, like, where'd you get this concept? And I said, well, you know, like, you know, there's all these shows when I was growing up, and they were kind of seminal, right? And then you said, okay, but like, what does that mean for them? And I go, well, I mean, the guy went to prison for 20 years, and the wife was like literally.
Why is this not working now?
Financially destitute, and she could sell the story for so much money.
That is not romantic.
Really?
That is not romantic to aspire to be like a mobster who is a piece of shit and his wife who won't expose his secrets.
That's the thing I told you
That
earlier.
is not romantic.
I think that no matter, how smart, dumb, good, bad a person is, there's so many parables that you can draw from their life and use it to learn, kind of like figure out what you want in your own. And to me, it's not that I want to do criminal things and I want a wife who can support that. To me, it's that.
If I were to do criminal things.
It's a Bruce Lee quote that y'all have heard a million times.
What's that Bruce Lee quote?
Right?
What is it?
You don't wish for an easy life. You wish for the.
Who the fuck doesn't wish for an easy life?
No,
I like the hard mode, Nick. Yeah, clearly you do.
No, you don't get it.
She doesn't get it.
It goes like this.
She doesn't fucking get it at all.
Instead, you wish for the wherewithal to endure a hard one.
Wow.
Only if you have to.
No, because
not to hope that you have a hard life.
Because if you have the wherewithal
So
to
deep.
endure a hard life, you're gonna have a good life in all.
Why are you of all people talking about a hard life when you literally got a Ferrari in your garage like some fucking Ty Lopez bullshit? You are literally in the top 0.001%, maybe
Got him.
even crazier percentage of lucky people on this earth, you dumbass.
Let's wait until my latest physical before we call that. My mom's side of the family is like rife with cancer. In fact, we were gonna go to Asia together this summer, and I remember just being shocked at like how many. My mom had 8 brothers and sisters.
You keep telling me it's only applying to the women in your family. Why do you flip-flop for sympathy? Shut the fuck up! You literally tell us every time about it. It only applies to women in my family. So why are you tripping?
That form of cancer, but then the uncle who has another form of cancer, and the grandfather
Well,
who
it
has
doesn't help when you smoke cigars. Your chances does it. It's how about the consequences of my actions again?
I missed the cigar fight, so I don't know the context for that, unfortunately. Oh shit. Wait, where is this? Is this Collins?
Yo, the vibe like that. Hey, my wife about to kill me. I came to
Wait,
see
what
you,
the
dog.
fuck?
My wife about to kill me. Yeah, she. Love you, bro. Love you, Steve. Frank's vote 954. What? Frank's vote 954 would be speed. YMCA. Don't touch me, motherfucker.
Is this like Southeast Miami Beach? Is that where they are, or is this something different? I can't tell. I don't know what this looks like in the daytime because I only go at night. I have no idea. Wait, there's no way. I don't think there's that much open space out here, is there? Miami Beach, Google Maps. No Doxerino. Because my address is so fucking secret. No, they're in Fort Lauderdale? Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, because I was going to say, usually there's a lot more, stuff going on there. Okay, never mind. Fuck that. Fort Lauderdale, bruh. That's so far away. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Like, whatever.
Is that highly genetic? I don't know about pancreatic cancer.
I mean, like, I would imagine all of them are highly genetic because of how.
You think Amouranth is looking for not as crazy of a husband?
Okay. I mean, look, you could obviously.
These guys are perfect. These guys work well together, okay? These guys have the perfect blend of autism for each other, all right?
No, either know where.
How could a 24-hour fight and they haven't hit each other yet? That's impressive in my mind, if this is not staged.
They would.
Even if it is staged, that's impressive.
The paintbrush on their tongue, and then their tongues would glow, and they take these pictures saying, oh, look how cool my tongue glows. All of them got cancer. That has nothing to do with genetics. That's because you're exposed to radiation. My point is that obviously there's, two overarching ways you can get cancer. One is that you are exposed to something that is highly carcinogenic.
About 10% of pancreatic cancer cases are considered hereditary, so most are not. So statistically speaking, no. These mutations can increase the risk of developing cancer. The mutation's called germline mutations. I don't know. I'm just starting the reading. I don't know about it.
I would have to look that up myself, but you would have to understand that sure, but you're looking at it from just a raw statistical standpoint. when you should be using like Bayesian statistics.
Okay, but the fact is though, if you were really looking at it, you would know this.
It might be 10%, but if you had 3 other family members with cancer, maybe the chance of hereditary is actually.
She called police on him twice. Destiny doesn't seem healthy. When they call the police, they're calling somebody else, and then they come over dressed up as police. That's what's going on. Trust me,
It's
okay?
higher than 10%, my man. So it just really shows
You're
what
right,
your
you're right.
concerns are.
I've never.
He was mad because she wouldn't let him smoke a cigar while they were cuddling with the dog.
It is literally 0.01% because it's never happened to me before. How did you get 10%? Just that you can theoretically figure out.
Because I was reading. I'm reading.
Oh,
to
it says
you.
10% of dogs eat cigars out of people's hands?
No, I'm saying I know my own dogs, and I know they jump more than 10% of the time.
And yet it's never happened to me.
Because you literally kicked them away from you. We saw on stream, not aggressively, but you're like.
You told me to do that.
I did not tell you that. Jake did. I did not tell you to do that.
Bro.
Okay, so you hire a trainer who's teaching.
Bro.
So I can't trust the trainers you hire?
Well, that's why he's fired.
That's not why he's fired.
That's one of the reasons amongst many, because he's not a good trainer.
Why
yes.
did you? You're an idiot, dude. So you see him teaching this, and you decide to
He
say
doesn't
nothing.
not want the dog's attention. He's trying to teach him not to jump when people are walking across the driveway, but you were
And
standing
yet they still
there.
jump. And also, I'm not kicking them away. I'm using my feet to block them.
No,
from
you
jumping.
were sitting in a chair. Loki wanted to come up and cuddle because he wants attention. He's trying to comfort you because he sees that you are having an argument. The hormones, the sound you're making is a stress signal to him. And you're like, that's not the same thing as jumping on you when you're walking across the driveway.
None of this has anything to do with the likelihood of a dog eating a cigar that you're so afraid of.
True.
Stop.
My point is, you are so
Is she even
concerned about
trying?
low chances for your own
Is she
safety.
even
but when
trying
it
in
comes
this
to
argument?
The safety of my dogs, which is a much higher probability, you don't care, and you're so willing to.
Okay, time music is good. Sorry about it.
Now, I know these two used to work together before Tony followed his Lord and Savior Little Joseph to Texas, so I don't know if there's like unknown beef here.
One thing I love about how real this is getting is
I wish everyone knew everything.
But just based off of what we're seeing, Tony's being a dick. And funny enough, this is the day after Tony's big moment with the Tom Brady roast, so you would think that he would be in a good mood, but clearly not. Speaking of Tony's big moment, here's a clip of him talking about it, and you guys tell me if you think this shit is as cringy as I do.
But you were a superstar.
And if you only knew,
I'm almost certain you're not supposed to smoke in the same room as your dog. I mean, you're not supposed to smoke in the same room as a human being, so yeah, that makes sense.
spill the beans on these mother. They don't even know. I'm about to give them the whole.
He said you would give your platform for him to tell his side. Yeah, hey, listen, if they want to call in, I will gladly mediate, of course.
Inside scoop about how it was supposed to be a short set. They didn't want me to make fun of this. They didn't want me to make fun of that. Okay.
And then you just get up there and you
Right. The world. They gave me a chance. You know what I mean? They gave a hungry wolf a chance.
I've never seen anybody make cigarettes look so lame in my life. And to see a 40-year-old man say spill the beans with his whole chest is one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. Also, the comments for this video are objectively hilarious. Here are some of my favorites. The lesbian with the cigarette is super confident. Guarantee Tony was gonna put 2 hands on that straw prior to sipping. And last but not least, the funniest thing about Tony is his ability to keep a straight face when he talks like this. And unfortunately for society, this spill the beans clip was not a one-off. It seems like anytime he's on a podcast, he just can't wait to talk about how awesome he and his show are.
My show's 2.5 hours. His show's 60 minutes. The roast of Tom Brady was the most watched program in Netflix's entire history. The episode of Kill Tony with Shane Gillis as Donald Trump and Adam Ray as Joe Biden. 1.5 billion minutes watched.
Damn.
2.5 billion minutes watched.
Damn.
His lack of self-awareness is honestly mind-blowing. But that's the through line I have with Joe and damn near every single one of his friends.
They're all top-tier comedians with zero awareness.
Which I would say is one of the most important parts of being funny.
But these are the people Joe chooses to surround himself with. A bunch of obnoxious, egotistical narcissists all trying their best to stay on Rogan's good side for the possibility to get back on his dog shit podcast. Not exactly the best group of people to keep somebody grounded. But unfortunately, it gets even worse because now Joe has established what I call the untouchables. These are people Joe has convinced himself are his friend, people who can no longer be made fun of or criticized. People like RFK.
2 people died. I'm gonna do his voice while you talk if you don't mind. Don't do that.
Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and even Jared Leto.
Look out,
Jared Leto owns that. He lives there now. Doesn't he have a whole cult?
Shh.
Okay, he's a good guy.
Shush, he's a good guy. Like, what kind of bullshit is that? This was insane to me. Mr. Conspiracy Theorist and the biggest gatekeeper in comedy is now so cucked that he's silencing comedians to protect Jared Leto. This Jared Leto.
Oh, you with your fingers in your chin beard. What are you sitting on your fucking ass for? Huh? This is the 30 Seconds to Mars show, okay? If you can't stand up, you better be up off your f***ing ass right now. You hear me?
Why? Because he went to dinner with him once and he was nice to him.
Dinner with him, me, him, Theo, and
he's my
some
spirit
people.
animal. I love him. He's a great guy.
Joe, you silly little bitch. Everyone you meet with half a brain is going to be nice to you. You have the biggest podcast in the world. People are gonna want to get on your good side. How is he this fucking stupid? Like, but he was nice to me. He was nice to me. Like, no shit, dumbass.
True.
Maybe it's because he thinks he can get something out of it. He like UFC, like I like UFC. He's a good guy. This is why I say Joe Rogan has ruined comedy. It's not only because he's objectively bad at stand-up or the fact that he doesn't understand basic humor. Those things definitely don't help and are hilarious, but it's mostly because of this weak-ass culture he's created. A culture of being nice and fake for the sake of his celebrity friendships. Also, Joe's dumbass picks the worst people possible to try and protect. He is surrounded by grifters and has no idea. It is pathetic. What Joe is doing is robbing comedy of its integrity. This is why Anthony Jeselnik said what he said.
I'm like disgusted with the state of comedy and podcasting. If you have a presidential candidate or a major politician on your show and you do not f- with them in any way, you're a podcaster. You're not a comedian.
The stand-up comedy I grew up on was never about being nice, especially to politicians and celebrities. I always saw it as the comedian's job to not only make us laugh, but to say the thing we're all thinking, but too afraid to say out loud. To call out the parts of...
Do or did you ever have doubts whether people who are friendly with you are chasing clout? I think in some ways, both the kind of person I am doesn't really attract those people, and also just my position on the internet also doesn't attract those people. I've answered this question a few times. I just don't think I have those people ever because... yeah, just I think that my demeanor doesn't attract those type, and also because I'm so separated from everybody else. Like, you're never making it. You're usually giving up more clout than gaining it, I think, by trying to get in my orbit, I think, yeah.
Of our culture they thought were bullshit. But Joe Rogan is that bullshit. An out-of-touch, confused old man surrounded by cowardly, narcissistic hacks. He keeps other comedians in line with a threat of never being on his podcast again. I don't think he does it consciously, but it's out there. Like, there's a reason that nobody ever talked about how shitty Brendan is. This is a man who's made it his life's mission to give some of the worst people on this planet the perfect platform to lie about whatever they want to millions with zero pushback. And in the next episode, I'm gonna prove that he knows that this is happening and doesn't care.
You got introduced as our friend Donald Trump. That's right. Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. They were talking about you in such a favorable light. The audience was cheering, and then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
Yeah.
There's probably no one in history that I've ever seen
that's been attacked the way you've been attacked.
Oh my God. Glaze it up. Am I the asshole? Or no, wait, am I overreacting? My friend just married an estranged youth on his 18th birthday. I have a friend, 27 male, who's been housing a youth for over a year. He took him in 2 or 3 months away from his 17th birthday, then housed him all throughout his 17th year up until his 18th. He just turned 18 last week. It's an odd situation, and in hindsight, I should have asked way more questions. I mean, yeah? Wait, what? Yeah? Isn't that is kind of strange. Like, hey, what's up? Nothing much. Who is that? Oh, that's a 17-year-old that's living with me. Why? I'm housing them. Interesting. Okay. But to be fair, as far as I knew, my friend was just offering up a helping hand to a troubled, estranged youth and giving him a place to stay. I go over a lot, and from what I've observed, the youth is withdrawn and has his issues. I've yet to hear his voice or make eye contact with him. He dropped out at 16 and does nothing of his days except smoke his mind away in the yard and hack away at his wrists and hands with a penknife until my friend yells at him to cut it out. Bad expression there. And to go wash his hands. There have been things that raised my eyebrows throughout my stays. For example, the youth casually... There have been red flags. The cutting isn't one of them, though. Okay. And the smoking... Wait, am I mixing up who she's talking about? He doesn't speak, make eye contact with anybody, dropped out of school at 16 and does nothing with his days except smoke weed and cut his wrists. Okay. Also, there are weird things happening. Okay. For example, the youth casually walking out of the bedroom half naked. My friend lives in a 1-bedroom apartment with marks all over his wrist, or I'm sorry, his chest and neck that I don't believe might have been loved by. What? This is retarded. Why wouldn't he just adopt him? Marrying seems really weird and dangerous. Sounds like a dumb excuse. Speaking in a more general sense, a marriage is a lot easier to have than an adoption. Wait, what the fuck? Wait, hold on, I'm sorry. There have been things that raise my eyebrows throughout my stays. For example, the youth casually remarks elevated chest with elevators. And now I'm pretty sure I once saw a tied-off condom just lying on the bedroom floor and passing. I failed to put two and two together at the time because I was under the impression that my friend was just looking out for youth in need. But now, after this conversation, I'm extremely freaked out. We had a brief call, and he says since the youth has mental health issues, he married him as a way to legally bind himself to him so he doesn't run off and lose his way in life, and as a way to give the youth a fresh start through a new loving family unit. This is retarded. This can't be real. How is the top comment here? Why doesn't he just adopt him? Also, who would go through the trouble of adopting a 17-year-old to fuck and then basically abduct the suicidal kid, have him not even going to school and doing all this crazy shit, and use a condom? What? Okay. Gulf diplomatic sources debate if Trump will announce U.S. recognition of Palestinian state. Saudi Arabia will host a Gulf-U.S. summit in mid-May during Trump's Middle East visit. Speculation swirls over a major announcement of a Palestinian state. What would the effect of that be? That's really scary, because that could be that he could do this in ways that would be really, really, really bad. Give us some hypotheticals. Imagine he recognizes two Palestinian states, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Or imagine he recognizes one Palestinian state. Or imagine he recognizes the Gaza Strip as a Palestinian state, just that, and not the West Bank, right? This would be like what would happen if Trump said, I recognize the Palestinian state of Gaza, and then that was it? That would be crazy. Like, very bad for the Palestinians. But I don't know. I can't even say this doesn't sound possible, because who the fuck knows? Wait.
We're going to get great ratings in your show.
Trump is surrounded by women as music blares in the background. After a while, Trump goes to greet three new guests. Among them, the financier Jeffrey Epstein. More than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges. Later in the footage, Trump is seen talking to Epstein and another man as women are dancing in front of them. Trump alternates between dancing and pointing out women to Epstein and the other man, and telling Epstein about the cameras. Though exactly what they say is difficult to understand as they discuss the women and their appearances, Trump gestures to one and appears to say to Epstein, "Look at her back there. She's hot." And then Trump says something else into Epstein's ear that makes him double over with laughter. But as the president says now, he never liked Epstein.
I was not a
Amouranth memes. Don't care about this.
To. But while others turned their viral videos into careers as content creators, he ended up divorced.
Either way, can you have your mom start the divorce proceedings?
Homeless.
Because I'm sleeping out on the side of a fucking mall.
Alcoholic and downright insane.
Where you at, OG?
Did we watch this on stream? This guy's in my YouTube chat like every other day, like just spamming crazy shit. Wait, it's getting good in here? Is it?
Oh, trust me, you're so good.
Go back to the other.
She's trying to be like.
You don't even know how to use OBS. You're trying to be a streamer. Go back to the screen.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? Like, she's trying to make sow this like doubt, but it goes like this, right? I'll literally start that recording, and you're gonna have to fast.
Okay, I don't know.
Hey, geezer!
He's a legendary old school schizo.
I know you drive this highway!
To make matters worse, ever since he blew up, he was plagued with accusations of lying, scamming, and much worse.
Anyone that knows simple math knows that that puts the girl at about 14, 15 years old when she met Chris and had this relationship with him.
But just how did he fall this far? Shoenice's real name is Christopher Shoe, and we only know who he was before his online presence through his own retellings. According to him, his parents separated when he was a child, and he grew up with 2 brothers and his mom in a 1-bedroom place. As she unfortunately developed a drinking problem, the kids became increasingly rowdy, spray painting people's houses and getting up to antics that got them kicked out of many of the apartments they stayed in. Even at this point, Chris already had the ability to eat unusual things.
Why not watch the ammo drama at its peak? It hits too much of the same receptor and it gets boring. We need to wait until shit picks up again.
From grass to pebbles to eating cake ingredients during his home economics class. This became such a phenomenon that the teachers knew that Chris's group projects never got finished because they ran out of supplies before they could do their work. And eventually, his mother's drinking habit got so bad that she was regularly blacking out and not being able to feed Chris and his brothers, at which point their father took them in.
You know, my father eventually came and got us, and times went on.
This might have been a little late since Chris had already developed a drinking habit of his own, as he was regularly getting blackout drunk as early as 8th grade. He also engaged in other unsavory activities.
He used to hit on me and my friends on Facebook when we were in middle school. We 100% instigated it, but this guy's legendary. Jesus.
That are not related to drinking.
You would charge the neighborhood kids to watch your dad bang your stepmom.
Stepmother, she was Russian. Good people.
Good people. How much money did you make in that racket?
I don't know. I was in 8th grade.
Right. And did you ever beat off watching that?
Never.
No, okay.
It's one thing selling tickets to the neighbors' kids, but damn, it's your dad's dick, bro. Sound good?
But surprisingly, this wasn't the worst thing he engaged in during this time. In a later video, he confesses to having stolen money from his dad multiple times, as well as stealing his car. Last but not least, he retells one fateful instance in which the private school he was attending was holding some kind of party, during which he spiked the punch bowl with his own piss and joyfully watched as everyone at the school unknowingly drank his piss. From 90-year-old nuns to the little kids. Despite how clearly dark this time was, Chris has a very positive outlook on this part of his life, proudly remarking that he was voted the class clown in 2 different high schools. He even mentioned his class clown status on his LinkedIn, listing wrestling and women as his high school pastimes. Despite his fond memories, his late teens...
Why not wrestling women? Got it.
Saw his alcoholism progress into general drug abuse. Chris took...
He was literally in chat like an hour ago. Yeah, I see him pop in every now and then. He seems like he's like a crazy person. I was just curious who the fuck he actually was.
Every opportunity he had to use any substance, regardless of what it was. Thankfully, before he could spiral into a more extreme form of addiction, his father noticed it and sent him to rehab. Unfortunately, this didn't work too well.
Which chat? YouTube chat.
When he came back, he instantly went back to his substance abuse, prompting his dad to tell him he had to move out. After a short stint living with his older brother and working as a roofer, Chris had to return to high school, meaning he had to stay with his mom. He described this period of his life as particularly dangerous since the school he went to was rife with gang activity, to the point that the principal apparently had half of his ear cut off. When he spoke to his mom about quitting high school, she had no problem with it, on the condition that he enlisted in the army, which he promptly did. Chris was deployed to Kuwait in 1991 and worked in the food supply chain, during which time he retells a story about having saved 2 little kids who were stuck in a dune by feeding them ravioli. If this is true, I'd say this partially redeems the punch bowl incident. Only partially though. He also claims this gave him his long-standing objective of ending world hunger, which is an interesting backstory for a guy who became famous for eating insane things. In another retelling of his time time in the Army, he claims to have worked plumbing, which according to him is the U.S. Army's name for when you pour diesel into the metal cans where all the soldiers are.
Hold on, I didn't get that. Shoenice22 chatter. Yes, this guy shows up in my YouTube chat because he's on a checkmark YouTube account. You start spamming crazy shit on my YouTube chat. He does it like every other day. So
hitting in and then lighting them on fire, as Chris himself describes in great detail. But his class clown identity also carried into the Army. When it came time to shave his head, he asked the barber to draw a question mark on the top of his head. When his drill sergeant discovered this, Chris was punished by having to eat mystery meat off a tray on the ground. Not that he had any real problem with that. He also claims to have been
this is H3H3's chat as well.
Offered to leave deployment early with a Purple Heart after he fell off a vehicle while loading up MREs onto pallets where he accidentally hit his head. But he refused to accept it so he could stay in the Army for longer. On a much darker note, Chris's time in the military was marked by his involvement in a very tragic accident.
I was driving up into the thing and I had ran over something that definitely lifted up the side of the truck, and I was like, oh my god. I jump out and there's a soldier laying on the ground, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, I hit you, I can't believe it. And he just, the way his torso was turned, I knew it was just a matter of time. And he was just like, no, you weren't the one that hit me, you were the second one that hit me. And I'm like, oh my god, dude, I'm so sorry. So there's no like radio communication. I just started screaming help. We're in the middle of a sandstorm. I'm talking like right now, but he was screaming at me, I was screaming at him, blood was coming out of the mouth, and the last thing he said was, can you just tell somebody in my platoon, tell my wife and kids that I love them? Jesus. And I said, no problem, bro, no problem. I got up and I just ran to the tent, got a MASH unit out there, threw him in the Humvee. They brought him. I didn't even find out for a couple days that he had died, but I had a mission to do.
Immediately after retelling this grim incident, he reveals he actually forgot about what the dying soldier had asked him to do. And
Jesus. Did Dean ever get back to you about the debate? No. Or I think he said on stream that he explicitly wouldn't debate me because he's...
Instead of delivering the message to the man's wife, when Chris came home, he traveled around and blew all of his money in Vegas. It was only 3 months later that he went through his belongings from his time in the Army and found the paper he'd written her address on and remembered what he was supposed to do. But at that point, he had already spent all of his money and couldn't afford to travel to where the man's wife lived, so he just wrote her a letter instead.
But before we go any further, a word from our sponsor.
Hey there. Looks like you didn't heed my warning, did you, little guy? Apparently, my message was lost on all of you. I said never goon. Not even once. Which is why I made this new swag t-shirt. See this t-shirt right here? We've got this beautiful...
I need the upcoming Pangburn events going to be in the Philly area. I think I'm doing one with David Pacman in... I don't know, actually. Fuck. Oh, Pacman and Destiny in New York. How far is New York City from Philadelphia? That's on the 22nd. Oh, that's close. Just drive, motherfucker. What's wrong with you? There you go. I'm looking in chat. There you go.
Runic writing, ancient manuscripts to remind you of what you can never do. It's got this epic death metal font you can kind of read sometimes, and an extremely tasteful acid wash to make it look more vintage for all you vintage kids out there who can't stop thinking about vintage things. It's vintage. Buy it, it's vintage. But it's getting so gosh darn cold out here. I mean, how am I supposed to not goon to keep warm? What am I gonna do? Oh, that's right. I made a pullover.
I heard that you've been gooning. What did I tell you, you fool, you little gooner? The scarecrow beckons. It is said by the Ancient One that gooning brings on unforeseen Euclidean horrors.
What does Euclidean mean?
You should buy an Aerolite 103 and start flying around. Got it.
I don't know. Euclidean is a word. Euclid. SCP! It's also acid wash. We've got some cool designs here on the sleeves, on the front, on the back. We've got some cool imagery, messaging. It's good merch, okay? That's the point. It's good merch. It's high quality. I'm not even trying to talk it up too much here, but it is good merch. And if you like it, it's a great way to support the channel. And it's available only on turkeytom.shop for a limited time right now. And when it's gone, you won't be able to get it again. So, yeah. Thanks for buying. If you don't buy it, thanks for watching. But buy it. And don't goon or whatever. Never never goon. Never goon. Never goon, whatever you do.
Buy my merch, and whatever you do, never goon.
Now back to the video.
There's no real reason for him to have lied about this particular tale, since it doesn't really make him
Never goon. Do we hate Tom? No, I don't think so. We don't hate Tom.
look good, and he's clearly not joking, so much so that he eventually made an update calling out the people who were attacking him for potentially having injured or killed another soldier. In the middle of him retelling his army stories, he also makes a passing mention of once having fought off 20 police officers.
20?
While there's very little information
Damn.
about this online, a lawsuit dating back to 1993 describes 2 police officers being called to a party to break up a fight between 2 men. One of these men, identified as Christopher Shoe, is said to have attacked a police officer and put him in a chokehold until the other cop struck him with a baton. This incident happened in one of the cities Shoenice is known to have lived in, and given his history of being a rowdy drunk guy...
Bro, just as a... Fuck, wait. I'm glazing a little bit, hold on. I didn't know until I'd watched that that Last Republican movie or whatever, that the Adam Kinzinger guy, I just never heard this story
Farms all over the
before.
place, you have businesses. I mean,
the suspect suffered from mental illness.
It's a whole 6-minute video. I just want the fucking...
remember trying to...
You know what? Fuck it. We will watch this whole video because I've never seen this video before. This is just crazy shit, dude. Have some respect for this guy.
We grew up in the
This video is 14 years old.
Midwest in various locations, but typically in small towns.
This part of the country is very special. Just
Aw,
because of
he's
the
a little
people.
baby.
I mean, you go to a small corner store, you go to farms all over the place, you have businesses. I mean, it's just, I think, really represents every cross section of America.
We learned the value of serving other people at a young age. My father ran a homeless shelter for many years, and we often would go there and volunteer. When Adam decided to join the military, we were very proud of that.
When I heard that the planes hit the World Trade Center as I was driving to work, at that moment I knew that
music.
America was never going to be the same again. But what I underestimated was that it would change my life. I really felt that I have to go serve and protect my country. In October of 2001, I decided to join the Air Force Air National Guard, and that's been an exciting job, and it's taken me to a lot of places overseas. I've been to Iraq 3 different times, Afghanistan twice, and South America as part of the war on drugs, and a lot of operations internal. Well, I just had come back from about a 2-week trip with the military, so I went out with my friend and my girlfriend, and we went out to downtown Milwaukee in an area that's referred to basically as North Avenue. There's a lot of upscale kind of pubs and bars there. So you get a cross-section of college kids coming out and then working professionals that come out for a nice dinner or a couple drinks in town, and just a really neat area with a lot of rich culture. Well, on the night of the attack, I was out with my friend Justin and my girlfriend Megan. We called it a night at about, I remember, 12:25 a.m. As we're walking home, we going down North Avenue towards my car, and then the incident occurred.
Surveillance video from a corporation right in the corner where the attack occurred showed the victim and the suspect walking westbound on the south side of North Avenue. The victim and the suspect were boyfriend and girlfriend. They had got into an argument in a bar. The suspect suffered from mental illness.
Bro, what is this? Does it need to be edited like this? Why? Dude, this guy looks like the fucking... He looks like the Terran soldier guy in the Brood War intro cinematic. Am I crazy? Why?
Schizophrenia, to be specific. He hadn't taken his medication and wasn't in the right frame of mind.
Okay,
At some
thanks.
point during the argument, without provocation, the suspect reached in front of the victim and slashed her throat. The victim kind of blindly ran into the middle of the street with the attacker following her the entire way.
I remember hearing a commotion in the middle of the road. And I looked over and I saw a girl running at me. And I remember her saying something along the lines of, "He cut my throat," or "Help me, he cut my throat." And I noticed blood immediately. And I noticed that she was bleeding profusely from her neck. She was trying to hold it. The thing I remember is thinking that this was so unrealistically bloody that it couldn't be real. This has got to be some kind of a prank, like a Halloween scene. I really, really wanted to run away, but I knew I couldn't. And I remember a couple thoughts going through my head. The first thought was, I'm going to get stabbed and I'm going to die. And the second thought that went through my head is, but I can't watch this happen to her and live with myself for the rest of my life. I can't wake up with that memory. I remember trying to calm him down and saying, hey, put down the knife. It's okay, you proved your point. You don't want to do this. Put down the knife.
I remember him talking about the attacker having a blank look in his eyes. He just had one goal in mind, and that was to finish the job.
This is very unnecessary.
Done.
He went to back her up against a car. So I grabbed his knife hand, threw my arm around his neck, and got him down. And at that point now, it's just a fight for my life between him and I. And the whole time I'm screaming for somebody else to help me. After I got the guy down, there were people that jumped on and people involved in the near interaction that probably helped to maybe intimidate him.
The first officer arrived on scene. He observed Adam forcibly holding the suspect down. During the struggle, he placed his foot upon the suspect's wrist and asked his girlfriend to remove the knife from the suspect's hand. She then threw it over a pedestrian bridge. In the course of the attack, the victim sustained a deep laceration to the left side of her neck, which ultimately required 47 stitches to close the wound.
From what I understand, from talking to somebody who had been at the hospital afterwards, she was pretty close to not making it. Unfortunately, was able to pull through. In all honesty, the intensity of that sunk in probably over the next couple months. And even now, there's times when I think about it and I realize that how close I really brushed to death at that point. It was a crazy situation, and it was one I hope to never ever have to relive again. My military training was very, very good in teaching me how to just logically think through something and come to a successful conclusion. In this case, the successful conclusion was, a lady's still alive today.
It's a huge risk. Most people don't want to put themselves out there in harm's way. The suspect was fully intent on killing this woman. And I believe that he wouldn't have stopped unless Adam intervened.
I believe Adam took from this experience the knowledge that he really is one of the few people who is willing to sacrifice his life for others.
That brush with death really brings you back to a perspective of saying, I want to live for other people and I want to live for a cause that's bigger than myself. I decided to run for Congress after a lot of soul searching.
Adam had always had ambitions politically. After that night, having spent a couple years in the service and helping this woman, he realized that his life can have further meaning and he can help.
Okay, this is like dramatized in the dumbest way possible, okay? This is a crazy story. Some woman comes up to him in the middle of the night, bleeding, like she's got her fucking throat cut, and this guy with a knife is behind her, and he fucking fights the dude off. That's just wild. That's a wild and crazy fucking story. And he saves a woman's life. Anyway, sorry. Okay, back to this.
And his later claims to have served.
He was the guy, he was one of the two Republicans, him and Liz Cheney, on the January 6th Select Committee.
Shoenice is known to have lived in, and given his history of being a rowdy drunk guy, and his later claims to have served time for fighting cops, it's not hard to believe that this is the same guy. Regardless of all this craziness in his earlier life, it seems he did settle down a few years after returning to the US, as he became a family man, getting married and having a son. Fast forward a few years to 2008, and his now 8-year-old son made an account for him on YouTube. Chris stayed inactive for 2 years until December 2010, when he decided to act on his love for comedy by dropping this gem of a video.
Our family tree is shaped like a marijuana leaf. When my dad wanted us to learn how to read when we were little, he got us hooked on chronics.
If this seems more like an amateur stand-up routine instead of a typical YouTube video, it's because that's exactly what it is. On LinkedIn, he says he worked as a stand-up comedian for 5 years. I also have to point out here that his jokes about weed aren't just for the sake of comedy, but instead—
Wait, crash out?
Dude, give her a hug and just leave. Sending love and forgiveness for both of you.
I don't know what it would solve. He would just ask you to leave, and we're at the same place we would be.
I know.
It will not help.
Chief Bomb just tipped $1.
There's nothing
Chat,
I
should
can
I ban her?
legally do. I'm just fucked.
No, hey, we can figure it out.
Who's she talking to right now?
Now talking to the person.
Joe Peach just tipped $1. I can't take it anymore. Guys, play some Oblivion. Take care.
They say that like betrayal makes the strangest bedfellows. Absolutely true.
Joe Peach just tipped $3. Motherfucker, this is.
Are they arguing for real?
I'm coming for your ass.
I'm not even doing anything.
I'm not saying you're doing anything. I'm facing an argument, you dumbass. Obviously, everyone can see we're on video. Shut up!
XQC just tipped $1. Subscribe to @Simbay on Twitch. Subscribe to @Simbay on Twitch. Subscribe to @Simbay on Twitch. Subscribe to @Simbay on Twitch.
That'll make it better.
You're so stupid. How did you get so stupid?
You mean, how did I get upset that you thought I was going to have you murdered and you said that to everyone on
I wish you would now at this point. It's ridiculous what you're putting me through.
I feel like I'm
justified.
justified. I feel like I'm very justified being upset that you thought I was going to have you murdered when I saved you.
You were upset before then.
Sport for him.
Shut up.
And I still saved you.
Last time you were mad at me, you told me you wished you hadn't saved me because then we wouldn't have this bond of me being attached to you. Because you want to divorce me. Pick what you want. Do you want to be with me or you want to divorce me?
You're slandering
Which
so
one?
hard.
I can't do anything
You're
apparently.
slandering so hard.
Leave her alone.
I said
Leave.
I wish, that, someone else had saved you because you have this weird attachment to like...
Weird attachment to my husband.
Just tipped $1.
Great.
Hey, Amouranth.
Bro,
can you help me get unbanned from Kick?
like...
Chloe keeps getting me banned.
No, that was a different time
Shout out
entirely.
Talon
This weird
W.
attachment was
Troy
after the robbery. You dumbass. That literally the last time we had a big argument.
Wait, the weird attachment to what?
Dr. Phil just tipped $1.
God.
Dude, just shut the fuck up already and take some responsibility. You useless, ungrateful, selfish little piece of shit. Act like a fucking
Do you have
man.
any personal beef with Amouranth? Do you hate her now? Not only do I not have personal beef with Amouranth, I feel like I've called her out or criticized her on things before. And she's just like, oh yeah, I saw Destiny said that. And I get why he says that. I'm like, damn. So no, me and Ammo are 100% cool.
Of this?
I think.
I probably shouldn't, but it's like, if I had been your guest in the vein that you can understand.
I literally feel like Joseph right now, locked in the prison.
Oh, she's doing it for me. She's gonna compare herself to biblical characters. This is the best part. You know, the God of Abraham probably is punishing you for the ill that you have brought upon the world, right? The God of Abraham. You know, what have you sacrificed? Like, fuck off, dude. Fuck off, dude. She says she's literally Joseph from the Bible.
I said I feel like.
Oh, she feels like the son of Jesus, or the father of Jesus.
That's who Joseph is. Are you retarded?
There are more than one Josephs in the Bible. I picked the most famous one. The father of Jesus.
I don't think he does believe God. He don't even fucking understand the fucking story of Joseph. Apparently, after we just watched the movie. 2 versions of the movie.
Interesting. This is weird. What's up?
What up?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so. Basically, this whole thing flew off the rails when she asked me to come help her. I came to help her. She had a really bad attitude, and then somehow it ended up with her yelling at me, but it's my fault. And then, the normal thing of like, oh, we fight for like, I don't even know how many hours it is. Like fucking, yeah. And then at the end of it all, she starts telling me that she thinks, maybe I'm part of the plot to have her killed because of life insurance.
Wow.
And that's when I was kind of like, I do not think this person, I'm actually giving you the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that's really you. Yeah, I think you're in a loop right now.
She even has like a freak out area that's like in frame.
We have been making sure she only gets at most 1 Vyvanse a day. I don't even think you didn't take one today. And so it's like, she's just acting like she's looping, or at least I'm assuming that because the conspiracy theory thing. But otherwise, it's kind of imperceptible to tell that she's acting irregular, except that also she just doesn't kind of
1
care
Vyvanse
about
a day.
I have not eaten. I have hardly drank water, and I'm stuck.
Well, I agree, but like we're kind of past that right now. Like I didn't want to. So hey, just for you to know the full context, Angelica. All night, I was telling her, let's turn off stream.
Okay.
Let's turn off stream.
Cringe.
Let's not do this on stream.
And like a base goddess.
Every time. And every time.
She said, "Fuck you."
Every time. I'm gonna put it on speakerphone so it's more fair. Anytime that I said that, she would grab it and refuse. And I'm like, okay. So she kept wanting to stream it. The fact that the stream is still going is her decision. I have repeatedly tried to tell her, let's not do this, let's not do this, let's not do this. So at this point, though, she has created such a big issue that
because I can't make you leave,
Anyways,
and I cannot
good night.
stay here any longer.
Wait. Hold on. You're just gonna sleep in the master or what? I'm just making sure I know where you are.
Yes, I'm gonna go sleep in the master.
She said she's gonna go sleep, which is good.
Okay.
Okay, that's bad? Why are you looking at me like that?
I mean, I don't really trust what you're gonna do on a PC right now, unsupervised. But you know what?
There are literally 7,000 people watching me, so I'm
what you're doing.
I'm being held very accountable right now.
No one can see what you're doing on your screen or your phone, you dumbass. But I give up, Nick. If you want to fuck me over, I can't prevent that. No one cares. Police can't do anything. Just fuck me.
Ooh.
Basically, Angelica, I tried to get her to stop streaming it because I was like, this needs to resolve off stream. I have this
Slammed
thing I
door.
know say before, which it goes like this. If we're both recording or one of us is recording, you know that no real discussion's happening. Everyone's just trying to make a recording, right? Like no real dialogue happens, and I knew that. And so she wanted to stream some of the fight, and I didn't want to, but I went along with it. And then eventually I kept saying, you gotta turn it off now because we're never gonna resolve this. And like I said, we're still at it because she loves posturing and performing for stream. And I lucked out because she is clearly not in the right state of mind to where she's literally talking about, when she had the crazy episode.
He lucked
and she's
out?
saying straight up that like, I thought I was rapturing. And, and then she'll, but at the same time, she'll be like,
How was that lucking
why
out?
are you acting so weird around me? And I'm like, because you said you were rapturing. I don't know I've never encountered that situation before in my life, right? But like, here's the thing, right? Like, she's actually not as obviously loopy, which like, it took me a while to figure out, but like, literally, it's the weird little loopy conspiracy theory things. Like like if she was of sound mind right now, she would absolutely not tell the entire chat that she feels like she's Joseph in the Bible. She also wouldn't probably have said or admitted that she thought she was rapturing, right? And she also, because those aren't helping her perception right now. And then she also probably shouldn't say that, she said this actually, she said, I don't even blame the guy who made the call that got, the people there with guns. I blame you. Like, you blame me for getting swatted? Like, I'm pretty sure
I saved
that,
your life.
The worst thing you could probably pin on me is, like, I yelled. And I don't think that deserves to be answered with swatting. And certainly when it happens, I think it's a pretty easy thing to just say, yeah, that guy's a fucking crazy person. He shouldn't be doing that. But instead, she's kind of encouraging it because what she says is this. She says, well,
what does she say?
He had a good reason. Yeah, you tell your audience that you have a good reason for swatting their partner. What do you think happens? And true to that, 2 other times the police called because, once again, they, at least today, lucky for me, have a record of having been here, and so they have a synopsis of the scenario, and so they're not going to come in guns blazing.
Is she crying in the back?
Are crazy because they just called
It's
her.
not. I shouldn't laugh. Actually, I don't even know. I don't know how serious this is, so I will laugh.
Oh yeah, that wasn't a person. That was a cop calling her, checking to see what's going on, because again, she goaded them, and now they're doing it in force.
The cop was goaded? That's all I heard.
No, basically, she had a conversation with him, and like, I opened the mic just because I needed her not to say crazy shit again, and so with that being the case, she decided that she was actually going to just say, "Oh, it's my husband. We're living together, but I want him gone." And the cop's basically like, "Well, you can't just do that. Like, what y'all doing?" She's like, "We're sitting arguing." He's like, "Okay." He wants me to stop streaming. He's like, "Okay." It's like, "But he's legally your husband." And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, then it's a domestic thing and I can't do anything. Like, no one's doing anything wrong. I can't just remove someone because you don't like them." But that was the wellness call from the latest swatting, basically, because that guy called in pretty fucking serious. Okay. And I told her to put it on speakerphone after because I needed to know what was fucking going on.
Yeah.
Because the first time, I suspect that she kind of knew because I imagine they tried to call her But instead we got the knock on the door and I was like, who is that? She goes, I don't know. And I go and open it and boom, surprise. So I don't really know what to do.
That's crazy. That's crazy, chat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hope she does. But like you and I both know that the last time she said she was going to sleep in one of these episodes, she ended up wandering around the house doing interesting things.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen right now because I don't know. I haven't watched anything that you guys have been doing, but I think she does just need to sleep and drink water and eat.
True. Sleep it off.
Like that would be triggering anything.
Not that. That's the craziest thing, not that I know of. Like, we were having a great time, like, in the broadest sense, right? Like, to the point where, like, she felt very comfortable every day just coming up to me and just being like, right now I need help with this. Like, dogs. Like, go out and do this thing with me for 3 hours. Even when I'm, like, literally, clearly in the middle of something or doing taxes, it's like, come here, I need your help with dogs. And, like, that's acceptable now. And then she's just getting a little, like, crabby and snappy at me. Like, she'll ask me to come out there, and then every joke I tell, it's like there's something wrong with it, right? And, like, I can only deal with that for so long.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, look, like, I
This
don't
ain't
want
worth
to do
it.
this thing anymore.
I'm out.
And then that basically catalyzed this ginormous fight.
Yeah, I understand.
Like, at 3 a.m., she asked me to go help her with dogs for 2 hours. Like, and I said yes. And then she said I was telling bad jokes and that I was complaining. I mean, yeah, you have me doing stuff at 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
with 7 different dogs.
Yeah. Well, I do know you guys are spending a lot more time together. I don't know if that is just different. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff going on, but you guys just need to.
No, it's actually really weird. Okay, it's actually really weird because we are actually like really close. Like she's like.
I mean, your husband and wife, right?
Like talking to Jimmy and his wife all the time.
Oh no, he mentioned someone different. Sorry.
She's planning on. We're doing a big Asia trip, or we were, I guess. Who knows now, right? We're doing a big Asia trip. Right after the kit contract stops, and we're going to be there for almost 3 weeks.
Damn.
And then we have another, huge cruise, in later in October as well. Like there's all these big family trips planned with a lot of people, committing to going, and so like there's nothing to be unhappy about right now. Like there's literally nothing. Like her biggest complaint yesterday was that I was complaining that why are we hiring people to play with the dogs if she keeps telling me
okay
that,
is there anybody that watches these people often? Are these fights real? I can't tell. It's like the Nick and Milena stuff. I actually have no idea. I can't tell. I'm leaning towards no, but
It was a recurring obsession of his. According to Chris, marijuana is the way he treated his Crohn's disease. Unfortunately, due to Chris's lack of tact and familiarity with what kind of content really worked on YouTube, his channel didn't immediately take off, and it went completely unnoticed for a few years. During this period, Chris got some recognition not for his videos, but for having chained himself to a fountain during a protest in 2011. This protest was over the cancellation of Fountain Day, a traditional celebration of the university Chris was enrolled in at the time to study sociology. There are plenty of videos of this incident due to how unusual it was, especially since it looked like Chris was the only person protesting, while the rest of the people there were just looking at him in awe. In one of the interviews he did during this time, without any prompt from the interviewer, he started talking about how he wasn't doing this to promote himself, since he had already published a book and was about to go on a comedy tour, neither of which I was able to find anything about. However, as soon as the topic of his YouTube channel came up, he immediately started giving the little audience that had gathered around him a performative autobiography, almost as if this was the plan all along. Even this early on, some people were pointing out that Chris had a tendency to bend the truth to get his point across, but due to how obscure of a personality he was, it was an uphill battle to expose it. Based on the way he carried himself, this was, without a doubt, a publicity stunt to promote his YouTube channel. In an article written about his protest, it said he brought 2 adult diapers, a bottle of water, and no food, claiming he would stay there for 3 days without eating anything. He also added that he couldn't free himself as he had given the handcuff keys to a friend who would only arrive once the 3 days had elapsed. Unsurprisingly, he was gone within 1 day, but his goal was actually met since the link link to his YouTube channel was featured in the updated article. By 2012, Shoenice had officially exploded in popularity. And this is proved by the fact there was a Jaltoid video about him, which at the time meant you were a certified big deal. Do you guys remember when animation channels were massive all over YouTube? I kind of miss it a lot. The West has fallen. Anyway, his videos were getting extremely popular, although I can't show a lot of the most popular ones because they'd violate the current terms of service because they technically depict dangerous acts. To put it simply, Chris ate things he wasn't supposed to eat, some of which could kill an average person. As his videos got traction from legacy media outlets like True TV's World's Dumbest and Vice Media, thousands of people were now getting to watch this man eat rolls of toilet paper, drink rubbing alcohol, eat tampons, and many other inedible items that would make pretty much anyone gag. He also took part in an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, where we get early signs that maybe becoming famous wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. For example, he got called out on his Fountain Day stunt and not only admitted that it was just a stunt for publicity, but also added that the reason he did it was because he wanted to quit university anyway. In a much more concerning development, after a few comments asked about it, Chris confirms that he's no longer with his wife and she had kicked him out of the house. Coinciding with this are accusations that he was scamming his followers on Facebook, asking for money and claiming he was broke and couldn't afford food, only to quickly renege on his promise to pay them back and boast about having spent all the donated money on alcohol and weed, admitting to never being broke in the first place. This wasn't just covered on Reddit either. A small YouTube account uploaded a video right around the same time showing Chris asking for money on Facebook, suggesting that his wife had somehow gotten control of his finances and that he needed to go to Boston to close out his bank. This same video also pointed out that in recent months, Chris had become belligerent towards his followers. He had been uploading many videos in which he was extremely drunk, which was clear evidence he was going down the same rabbit hole of alcoholism that his mother did. It was clear that his mental state was rapidly deteriorating as a consequence of his drug use and separation from his family. Though we only discover the details of what went on behind the scenes much later, the results are immediately evident. For example, one of Vice's many articles about him during this peak covered his masterful rap.
You ever tried Ministry? A little bit.
Nice again. Been eating crazy since I was 10. Tampons, pine cones, cigs and rocks. Even ate a pair of dirty socks.
One may be inclined to think that this is just funny and not a sign of him slowly going nuts, but believe me, it gets a whole lot worse than an awful rap song. In early 2013, Vice did a proper documentary on him, and it cleared up a few of the rumors that were swirling around online. They talk about his recent bout of intense alcoholism and his strained relationship with his family, where Shoenice says that his ex-wife was having a
if you meet a functional alcoholic in public, like let's say you don't know them, you're not seeing them all the time, is there any way to tell that somebody is like an alcoholic? Is there like a sign or anything, or is there a way to know, or what?
Tough time handling his newfound YouTube fame, and that he was slowly but surely pushed out of the house. Once he realized he was now homeless and no longer able to see his son, he started drinking again after 6 years of sobriety. Soon after the documentary came out, it was also announced that he had been
I
arrested.
feel like the one alcoholic person I knew, her and her friend did a lot of mint gum or whatever, but that we were around them so much when they were drinking. Maybe we just got immune to the smell of alcohol, I'm not sure.
This supposedly happened because an old lady mistakenly identified him as the person who stole something from her car. It's very hard to make out what he says here due to the low volume and poor audio quality, but considering he uses this story to ask his fans for more money, it's possible that this didn't happen. However, a few weeks after this announcement, there is record of a different arrest, not for stealing, but for disorderly intoxication. Other dark moments of this documentary include him acknowledging the toll the alcohol takes on his body, revealing that the one time he had to get his stomach pumped wasn't from any unusual stunt, but instead from alcohol poisoning. Specifically, he drank Devil Springs, a bottle of 160 proof, and after, he became lethargic and passed out, only to wake
160 proof? At that point, why not just like drink straight? Is it methyl? Ethanol? What is an alcohol? It's not, fuck, I should know this because it was in a house episode. Is it ethanol? Yeah, why not just drink it straight at that point? Jesus.
Wake up with a tube down his throat. He adds that the alcohol is what makes him seek out other drugs, mentioning that the 2 times he smoked crack in his life were a direct result of being on a bender.
The only 2 times I ever smoked crack in my life was when I was drunk. I would never even think about walking down the street looking for a bump at 4 in the morning going like this.
So responsible.
Overall, the documentary paints a pretty grim picture of a man who no longer had any reason to take care of his health and well-being. As a result, he regularly risked his life for content because he had nothing better to do. For those who are only looking at
wait, sorry, I'm sorry, I was just looking because I'm reading my chest. It just looked like a bottle of water in my peripheral vision. Was that just fucking
documentary paints a pretty grim picture of a man who
Is that
no longer
liquor?
had any reason to take care of his health and well-being. As a result, he regularly risked his life for content because
I'm a baby. I can't even drink wine though.
he had nothing better to do. For those who are only looking at the surface of Shoenice's online presence where he was eating weird things and being funny, things were normal. Well, normal for his standards, with him doing things like painting his entire head white and eating lit matches for a Guinness World Record. But underneath it all, it wasn't hard to see that Chris was really struggling with the loss of his family. But people weren't calling him out for this. If anything, they empathized and felt bad for what he was going through. What they didn't feel bad for was his shameless grifting. In this video, he asked for money to buy weed and beer, being very, very upfront about it. I'm not sure if this is better because he's no longer lying about how he uses the money, or if it's worse because he doesn't even care enough to come up with a real excuse. In the same month as the documentary on him.
Do you like drinking? Fuck no. I hate drinking, but I love being drunk. Just things you gotta deal with.
Came out, someone uploaded a video compiling all the known instances of Shoenice scamming his fans, which naturally a lot of people were unhappy about. Chris can be seen asking for sums as measly as $100, followed by a former fan revealing that Shoenice once asked him for $500, supposedly because Chris's car had been towed. Under the belief he would be paid back soon, this guy sent him the money, and within 3 days, Chris asked for another $500, but he was never paid back, probably because Chris never intended to. Chris didn't even try to keep his story straight, as he would often outright admit to his lenders that he used the money to buy more drugs. In the Vice documentary, he claimed to regularly get $400 or even more by deploying his talents at local bars. But based on these witness accounts from people who gave him money, it seems he made his living very differently than what he told the journalists. After his peak in popularity around the middle of 2012, his growth seriously slowed down, dampening his dreams of going viral for his stunts and becoming a millionaire. For the next couple years, he didn't lose any of his following and got a decent amount of attention for his size, but due to his strained relationship with his community and the sheer strange and generally low production value of his content, becoming a huge channel was simply not an option for him. He made no effort to adapt his format to the new content standards on YouTube, and instead continued to regularly e-beg for drugs.
Hey everyone, Shoenice again. Well, basically I lost my ATM card and I want to smoke more weed and get drunk still for Bike Week. So my PayPal information's below me. This isn't begging. You don't have to give me a dime. Don't give a rat's ass. I got rich fans out there with trust funds. Hey, don't even miss $10. You know who you are. Please PayPal me some cash so I can go see the pot dealer.
Jesus.
At least I'm honest. Jeez. Thank you.
It's bad enough he was openly asking for drug money from an audience that was mostly comprised of kids, but what makes it worse is that he frequently talked about how his channel was meant to solve world hunger, and though he had some ideas on how he could accomplish this, none of them were realistic, nor did he ever try to put them into practice. It's also worth noting that he quickly deleted the videos in which he asked for money, clearly so he could hide his dark habits from anyone who hadn't seen them. Harkening back to the claim that being drunk made him look for other substances, around this time he posted a video of himself taking MDMA, which he said he'd never done before. This was very concerning and yet another sign of his rapidly deteriorating health. On his Facebook page, he lamented not having seen his son in years, but given his recent behavior, that wasn't going to change anytime soon. Meanwhile, on Twitter, he was threatening to delete his videos if his network didn't loan him $500. While media networks definitely have a bad history of exploiting the people who make the mistake of signing with them, what's strange here is that he's only asking for $500 in the form of a loan, not even a direct payment. This clearly suggests that this wasn't some kind of dispute over money owed to him, because if that was the case, he just asked to be paid. Instead, this was another case of him being desperate for drug money and doing things that don't really make sense to get it. Still, it does seem he genuinely fell for the trap of multi-channel networks, which were really popular around the time, and ultimately just took money from creators without providing much value to them. At first, he posted videos promoting and singing the praises of his network, but then he revealed he couldn't leave his contract and was making 30% of what he used to through YouTube, with the rest of it going to the network. This was just one of the major problems Chris was facing in 2014. As just a few months into the year, he actually got into his first YouTube beef with someone by the name of Ted Barris. Ted claimed that Chris faked his alcohol slam videos, pointing to things like the bottles already being cracked by the time the camera started rolling, as evidence that Chris had replaced the alcohol with something else. But this was the lightest of Ted's accusations, as in a video he posted in March of that year, he claimed that Chris scammed kids, had outstanding warrants in New York, and most damning of all, he claimed that someone who personally knew Chris accused him of being a creep. This was the beginning of Chris's war against Ted Barris, which is ongoing to this day.
Ted Barris and his homosexual love for me. Yes, blame Ted Barris for me leaving YouTube. fucking suck my YouTube, kiss my Google. You will never see a fucking video on here again.
Never.
Blame Ted Barris, people. Go in the link below me, because I have a new website and Lively. And like I said, Ted Barris is to blame for this. The fucking chilly fucking idiot.
Later on in the year, after having fallen for and subsequently denounced all channel networks, Chris somehow found himself in a different kind of network, a pyramid scheme. And you can tell that's what it is because the guy he had on to explain it began by immediately saying it definitely wasn't a pyramid scheme.
Anything, this is like, it's one of the few things in life where this heuristic is probably 100% accurate. Anytime ever somebody says, this is an idea, it's not a pyramid scheme. It is always a pyramid scheme. One of the few heuristics in life that is always true.
I wasn't able to find any of Chris's video where he talked about this scam again, so I'm guessing this was just one of the many videos he quietly deleted and pretended never existed. A while after, one of Shoenice's detractors decided to call up the guy Chris was doing the pyramid scheme with, and he had this to say.
I am so pissed off at this. I had contacted Shoenice before that because he had mentioned he was going to come out to Denver. He's like, well, can you help me get out there? So I paid for a train ticket. Yeah, get him out here. He says, I just need a couple nights at the hotel. Okay, fine. It has ended up being lie after lie after motherfucking lie.
As much as this solidifies how much of a compulsive liar Shoenice is, I gotta give him credit for owning his own partner in a pyramid scheme. You don't see that every day. As for the accusations that have been raised regarding him being some kind of creep, they came from someone called Wheezy, who had taken part in many of Shoenice's videos. And I really want to clarify here that these accusations should be taken with a major grain of salt. In the video promoting the pyramid scheme, Chris revealed he was in Denver, where Wheezy first came into contact with him. During the time he spent being friends with
Just look at this guy.
With him, Wheezy noticed a few strange things about him. For example, he never saw Chris with a woman, yet he'd heard him on the phone with someone saying extremely explicit things. In one instance, Wheezy asked Chris why he never brought the girl on the phone around, but Chris just blew the question off without providing any real answer. A few weeks later, and after several more calls of the same kind, they suddenly stopped, with Chris claiming that he decided to break up with this mysterious girlfriend. When that happened, Wheezy claims he started getting comments on his channel from this girl and decided to talk to her. As they spoke, she apparently said she was 21, but that she first got with Chris 5 years prior when she would have been 16. According to Wheezy, during this relationship, Chris pretended to be romantically interested in her mom so that he had an excuse to keep going to her place. Eventually, Chris came clean to the girl's mom, admitting that he was into younger girls, at which point she no longer allowed Chris to visit them. Wheezy adds that while Chris was still living in a hotel in Florida, he was notified that a detective was looking into him, at which point he fled to Denver and continued to talk to the underage girl over the phone for a while. Now, I want to reiterate here that these accusations have no direct proof, and I personally have not seen anything that leads me to believe that Chris is a creep. But obviously, even having a story like this is pretty concerning, since you can try to make amends and come back from being a liar or a scammer, especially when you're struggling with addiction. But these kinds of accusations aren't the kind you can come back from if you can't disprove them. Which begs the question, how did Chris respond? I'll let you see.
Raises the question. God damn it.
For yourself.
There ain't nothing you gonna me, Wheezy. I'll destroy your world, dude. I know. On Facebook. Cute little girl. Nice high school, bro. Is that your daughter? It hurts. It hurts. I know. It hurts. You know. My son's a bag, so when you ripped on him, I didn't care. I'm gonna her in the ass, bro.
Okay.
I'm gonna her in the ass.
You know.
There's really nothing I could say to make this look worse than it already does. Of course, once again, I want to remind you all that Wheezy's claims are just allegations. No evidence has been provided to the public, therefore, don't just believe it. One of the things that was provided to supposedly incriminate Chris is a set of YouTube comments supposedly made by this girl herself, where she called him a PDF file and compared him to Bill Cosby. Now, this isn't directly related to the matter at hand.
Wait, was Bill Cosby a pedophile? I thought he just did the Quaalude thing.
But on the topic of Shoenice and Bill Cosby, my lawyers have informed me that I have to show you this masterpiece.
No, Your Honor. I did not put the pill in the drink. I put it in the Jello pudding because it's so good.
Eventually, the supposed victim herself made a video addressing the accusations.
Morons. Leave Shoenice the fuck alone. First of all, he's innocent. He never me.
There you go.
Understood?
What's of note here is that she doesn't explain her connection to Shoenice and doesn't really give any new information. Instead, she opts to say that Chris didn't assault her, which was not the only accusation being made, more so that she was groomed. Because of her strange demeanor, many people thought that she might have still felt some attachment to Chris and made this defense of him as a desperate attempt to earn his approval. Regardless of speculation about her mannerisms, the burden of proof is on the people making the claim that Chris groomed her. As far as solid evidence of him doing anything to a minor, there doesn't appear to be anything concrete establishing that Chris did something to this girl. He did eventually threaten to file a lawsuit against Wheezy, but it doesn't seem like anything came of it. One poster who claimed to have closely followed the story did say, "I can also confirm that Shoenice has done some shady stuff in the past in that regard, having made numerous advances over Facebook towards underage girls, openly admitting—"
Wait, who in my DGG chat said that this guy flirted with you? Was that a girl or a guy? Did this actually happen? Oh no.
to touching himself to not safe for work images of underage girls and claiming that doing it was not a crime in one video. The Facebook accounts he had several years ago were extremely creepy, with most of his fan base being teenage girls. Numerous people have come out saying he made inappropriate advances over Facebook Messenger when they were underage. There's been no shortage of accusations in that department. Despite how extreme these accusations were, they stayed well out of the spotlight due to the confusing nature of the never-ending beefs Shoenice had with a dozen people in the eating weird stuff and slamming alcohol community, which was and is an actual community on YouTube, believe it or not. One particular beef that got—
Wait, have I ever talked about eating disorder Twitter? There's a lot of weird fucking shit on Twitter. EDTWT. Somebody messaged me once, because for whatever reason, people decided to hit me up on fucking Twitter. This girl messages me and I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? And then so I clicked through on her profile and she has a picture. I'm like, damn, it seems a little on the thin side. And then I see that they have their BMI listed in their profile, and then they have restricting as well. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then when you scroll down, it's so many pictures. There's like a whole section on Twitter of like people who do like eating disorders and like, I don't want to say brag about it, but it's like a whole community of like, you know, like I'm restricting, you know, purging, I'm doing all the, and it's people posting pictures and they're like boned, skinny, and like, oh my God, holy shit. Jesus.
Got a lot of traction comes from a video by someone named—
Body checking is a huge deal on Twitter. Is that the name for it?
On YouTube, believe it or not. One particular beef that got a lot of traction comes from a video by someone named Tubes in 2017, where he claimed he made some thumbnails for Shoenice but was never paid. Instead, he got emails from Chris saying that he only had—
Don't look up thin spo on Twitter. Oh, there was a lot of stuff titled that. What does that mean? Thin spo. I know there's a lot of like people would post pictures of like Skeletor girls and they'd be like goals or whatever. Oh, thin inspiration. Oh, yeah, goals and shit. Yeah, okay. Ugh. Ugh.
Had $2 in his PayPal because his ex-wife took all of his money, and that asking to get paid for the thumbnails he made was tantamount to scamming an old veteran trying to end global hunger. The worst part of this is, despite having just shamelessly scammed this guy, he continued to try and trick him into making even more thumbnails for him for free. In one of his emails, he said, "I figured you would just like the fact you'll be known as Shoenice's thumbnail master until 2030. At this point, Chris had over 500,000 subscribers and was regularly pulling in tens of thousands of views on every video. Yet, his behavior hadn't changed the least bit since 2012. The lying never stopped or slowed down, regardless of how successful or not he was. It's hard to tell whether or not he kept scamming people out of habit, or if he truly blew through all of his money so fast he had to scam people all the time to keep feeding his habits. What's interesting is that Tubes' video came out at a time when exposés about people who were scammed by bigger creators were at an all-time high. So despite how irrelevant Shoenice was at the time, the video got to 500,000 views, prompting Shoenice to respond in the only way he knew.
Tubes, he can't fight. That motherfucker does fucking thumbnails and gets ripped off, so he must be a pussy.
He eventually did cough up $50, but not without thoroughly insulting Tubes in the process.
Tubes, you're such a loser. And you know you are, bro. You said you were eating crumbs when I caught you on Facebook out at a bar.
The last significant blip in popularity happened for Shoenice in 2015, when he took part in a Tosh.0 episode that got to almost 2 million views. But after that, he became increasingly desperate for attention, being somewhat self-aware that his YouTube fame was long gone. In 2016, he tried to become a UFC fighter and fight Ted Barris, which technically would make him early to the influencer fighting game, which is pretty funny to think about. But like hundreds of other businessmen adventures and content ideas that Shoenice proposed, nothing ever came of it. Another one of his schemes was when he hooked up with the Brown Bag Boys to sell brown bags with his name on them. It's pretty difficult to figure out what he was actually trying to do here because while it initially looks like he's gonna start selling merch, you realize the only product he's promoting is literally a brown paper bag. At the same time, he's encouraging people to buy his bags. He also says you're supposed to bring the bag to a party that they're gonna host and fill it up with food to donate to the homeless. But near the end of the video announcement, he then straight up asks for donations, no paper bag required. He claims that the proceeds will all go to charity, but doesn't say what charity or how he's gonna distribute the money to that charity. I'm not even sure that the Brown Bag Boys exist because if you look up that name, you find absolutely nothing. I don't know what kind of schizophrenic scam he was trying to pull off here, but fortunately, I don't think it really fooled anyone into sending him anything. But his behavior didn't limit itself to scams, as around 2016, he began threatening to leave YouTube forever or start uploading to other platforms, usually blaming one of his enemies and telling his audience to go harass them, even though at that point, he had lost whatever loyal following he once had who may have been interested in doing that. Later on in 2016, he took part in an episode of the Painkiller Already podcast, which was by far one of the largest pieces of peer exposure Shoenice had ever gotten. While it does seem he managed to keep himself sober for the recording, his compulsive lying was also kicking into high gear. When the topic of money was brought up 10 minutes into the episode, he went on a tangent about being bad with money because he just gave so much to the homeless. He felt too bad about having money to keep it for himself. Immediately after he drank some Elmer's glue. If ever there was a sequence of events that summarized the entirety of Shoenice's life, this would be a perfect fit. When he finally got to addressing his haters who accused him of scamming people, he describes them as 6 drunk men who get on—
Wait, okay. Remember how if you were cool in school, you didn't have that cringe cum white glue? You had the awesome clear, like bluish glue? Was the bluish glue any better, stronger, or did it just look cool to trick kids into buying it? Wait, you guys know what I'm talking about? Oh, you guys were all fucking losers. This one in the middle. No, wait. This is like glitter glue. Never mind. Hold on. Wait. Not like a glittery glue. They made one and it was like a cooler, like this. This. Fuck you guys.
Google Hangouts to come up with conspiracies to destroy his life. Usually, Chris lies to get money for beer and weed, but when he's had his fill of both, he just lies to make himself look good. Throughout the episode, he constantly brags about how much people loved his comedy, to the point where they'd clap and ask for encores when he got off stage, asking for another set from the guy who doesn't even get paid. Even in his fantasy world, he's still trying to paint himself as an altruist who purposely doesn't take money from anyone. Then he goes on to brag about how good he is at fighting, despite never training in his life, because according to him, he was born a badass. It seems like whenever you let Shoenice talk for over 5 minutes straight, he reveals himself to be mentally 10 years old. At the 24-minute mark, he starts talking about Leafy's commentary video about him, visibly upset about the fact it got way more views than his actual videos, claiming that YouTube was purposely punishing his channel because he had previously moved his content to a competitor platform. And perhaps the funniest part of the entire thing is when he tries to explain his e-begging on Facebook.
Trolls, I used to just make videos. You gotta pay me $5 to be a friend of mine on Facebook, and I really didn't need it, but I knew haters would take them videos, and I formed hate on purpose because hate versus good, you know, it brings conflict, and conflict brings change, and I'm going to change the world through a YouTube community. So all my little haters, they'll be kneeling along the other masses when I become the next Messiah.
Wait, we're saying he's sober in this video? Does he talk like that soberly? Would we even know?
Change, and I'm going to change the world through a YouTube community. So all my little haters, they'll be kneeling along the other masses when I become the next Messiah. Sounds kind of weird. Hold on, can I take another hit?
Yeah, of glue? What is he hitting right now?
Well,
Just some tobacco.
And one of the funniest things he does is actually bragging about how many sources of income he has, from YouTube to merch to his proudest one, lifelong disability checks. In this instance, it's not that I doubt he has a lot of income sources, more so, I take issue with him neglecting to mention that his drug habits instantly pulverize all the money he gets. Another highlight of the podcast is when one of Shoenice's long-standing lies that he's told both in the Vice documentary and his appearance on the Tosh.0 show was unceremoniously destroyed.
So I got a question for you. I watched the Vice documentary. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
And I guess you used to live with either your wife or a serious girlfriend, and she kicked you out because she couldn't handle the fame.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I lied about that on
I thought you might have.
Vice.
Oh.
Yeah, it was actually from my pill addiction. That's right. I was breaking up prostitution.
This guy doesn't talk like he's sober. Or maybe he's somebody who did way too many drugs in the past and he's just kind of like fucked up now. But
I thought you might have.
Vice?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was actually from my pill addiction. That's right. I was breaking up prostitution.
Honestly, it's not surprising since the idea that his wife would rather her son grow up without a dad than deal with fame was always asinine, but it is a bit shocking how nonchalantly he admits to having lied for years to hide his pill addiction. Don't get me wrong though, this isn't Chris taking accountability for being on pills, as he immediately goes on to blame the hospital that gave him those pills after he broke his back. He then pretends that he quit pills and the alcohol with no issue, and says that only weak-minded people have a hard time quitting opiates. The thing is, we know his issues got much worse after his rise to YouTube fame. About an hour into the episode, he claims his YouTube career dwindling is fine because it's only a resume, as he's now working with a company with a tractor-trailer full of equipment, suggesting he was going to become an actor, something that I strongly doubt.
What was your question again, sir?
How many times
every time kind of sounds like a hater in this video. Okay.
You've been arrested and...
Oh, yeah.
Offenses?
Probably like, I'd say 12. Well, one was for marijuana possession as a teenager. One was for breaking into my dad's house after he threw me out and having a house party, but he dropped the charges. Then I fought with the police a lot. That was 4 or 5 times. And then I broke
battles with the law enforcement officers.
I was a hero to that city. I broke up a bad prostitution sting.
At this point, even if he wanted to get into the entertainment industry, he'd have a very hard time since he threw everyone he ever worked with under the bus, including Daniel Tosh. Despite how Daniel Tosh featuring him gave his online presence a real second wind, on PKA, Chris complained about having his improvised material cut out of the show, claiming that Tosh was envious of how naturally funny he was. He then added that Comedy Central didn't even pay him to stay 2 nights at a motel, which he found outrageous. When the topic of the military comes up, Chris brings up the story of him hitting a soldier with his car, but claims that he fabricated the story in the first place. And the truth is that he actually hit a camel. I don't know why he thinks admitting to having lied will make anyone trust that he isn't lying this time, especially when he's so pathological about it. It seems much more likely that the first story is true, given how upset he got.
Is Hassan implying immigration was fucking with him? No, it's don't ever take anything like this seriously from... I got stopped by CBP at Global Entry for additional questioning. I'm out. It wasn't that bad. Very strange experience overall, though. This can happen to anybody at any time for any number of reasons. The fact that he says that first of all, he has Global Entry, so it was probably like they can ask you random shit. Getting back to the United States is always an annoying clusterfuck. Like if he wasn't held for hours or some bullshit, then it's probably just ordinary routine shit. Yeah, that's all it was. Why did this guy overreact so hard, LeMayo? Immigration attorneys in Chicago, please DM me ASAP. Emergency situation needing potential on the ground. I have no idea. It's retarded. I don't know.
Got when people made fun of him for it, and now he has a new explanation to get people off his back. Despite only taking part in 1 hour of this episode of PKA, more lore was dug up from this appearance than from 5 years of his content. Of course, the new set of tall tales he rattled off had a very negative effect, giving a lot of ammunition to his trolls, who went on to make entire compilations of every single time he scammed his audience. But due to him having nothing else going on at this point in his life, the next 2 years of his online activity were entirely made up of his eternal wars against other YouTubers. In one video, he can be seen drunk and lying on the dirt in some park, fighting his detractors.
Ted Barris, your mom got killed by your dad. Not my problem.
Jesus.
I don't know how your mom getting killed by your dad makes me kids.
Later on, he admits to being homeless and resorting to sleeping outside of a mall.
Because I'm sleeping out on the side of a fucking mall. Yeah, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. I didn't have to do what? Entertain you f***ers. I've done this way before the internet. F***ers.
which he blames on his fans not donating enough money to him.
Is your f***ing volume working now? Is your volume working now? F*** you, Wesley Chippy, and your scumbag fiance.
If you didn't quite catch that, he's saying, "Is your volume working now?" in reference to the people who have been pointing out for years that the audio on his videos was too low, an issue he consistently made zero effort to fix. Keep in mind, I only played a fraction of the whole thing, but there's actually plenty more where that came from as he continues to scream about random online people for the rest of the video's runtime. This was by far the lowest Shoenice had ever been, and it seemed like he was actually going insane. In his long-winded psychotic rampage, he started beefing with his own son, who he had been away from for so long that he was already an adult at this point.
Hey, Christopher, nice talking to you again, whatever. Either way, can you have your mom start the divorce proceedings so we can end this all? Because you guys have been living rent-free for the last 8 years. You're an adult now, and she's been an adult for a long time. Grow up, we're splitting the property. So can you tell her that, Shoenice Jr.?
Soon after he asked for divorce proceedings, there's an online record that his ex-wife filed for divorce, which apparently hadn't been done up until that point. Also during this period was his beef against a very large YouTuber, Ethan Klein of H3H3. Back in 2015, Ethan made a video covering YouTubers who film themselves doing charity to make themselves look good. In it, Shoenice is featured, since he constantly talked about how much he gave to the homeless and his work towards ending global hunger. Funnily enough, he went as far as listing volunteering to the homeless everywhere for the past 40 years on his LinkedIn. But fortunately for Shoenice, Ethan didn't cover any of his scams, focusing exclusively on him exploiting some homeless lady for views. And what was Shoenice's graceful response? Ethan Klein doesn't give a single fuck about his subscribers. Jewish people are greedy and only care for themselves. At Ela Klein is a whore. Reasonably, Ethan was pretty taken aback, to which Shoenice responded by promising he was going to
Hassan followed him.
Troll him for the rest of his life. They went back and forth a bit, with Ethan and Ela dunking on him for eating toilet paper and being homeless. Admittedly, it must be hard to cast stones when you live in a glass homeless shelter, so Chris was definitely fighting an uphill battle here from the start. But eventually, he escalated the conflict by addressing them in a few videos.
Ethan and Ela, what is it, Ela? Fucking Bigfoot? Whatever, she's ugly as f. You guys are gonna sit there and rip on the smaller YouTubers feeding the homeless? Ethan, go fuck yourself. Seriously, H3H3 is overrated and you got a bunch of robot fucking people watching you.
But this was just the beginning, as he became increasingly erratic and resentful toward Ethan.
Ethan, you were a fucking scumbag emo 5 years ago.
Ooh.
And now you think you're some kind of a god. Raising money for people. Look, all I want to know is whose this is bigger, yours or Ela?
At this point in time, he launched one of his many attempts to switch to a different platform to see if that would revive his dead online career, and unsurprisingly, it didn't really work. He moved to LiveLeak, a website that was mostly dedicated to videos of people dying. But when he failed to get his videos featured on the homepage, he posted this.
All you fucking people care about are people dying? Oh my god, I can't even watch the fucking featured videos on this fucking pitiful website. Suck my dick and go watch another fucking innocent person die. What has humanity come to? Kiss my ass, suck my dick, lick my nuts.
Damn.
My dead mother.
It seemed like Shoenice's story was coming to a screeching halt. He had burned every bridge and completely wasted whatever momentum he was given by Vice and Tosh, and scammed his audience whenever he could along the way. He had no friends in the eating weird things community, and his audience had long abandoned him. In 2018, the H3 podcast uploaded a clip titled Shoenice is Insane that sits at 1 million views. In it, they show a 16-second clip of Ethan mentioning one of Shoenice's videos to Bert Kreischer. Somehow, despite how passive of a mention this was, Shoenice caught wind of it and left literally dozens of comments through multiple accounts, all suggesting that Ethan and Ela should forgive him for the things he'd previously said about them and have him on their show. Some of the accounts are even named things like Shoenice Revival and Shoenice Redemption. Despite his efforts, they did not have him on, which made him grow increasingly angry, so he then started threatening to sue them. While threatening to sue H3, he blames Logan Paul's forest incident on why his main channel was shut down, and says Ethan and Ela only ripped on him because he got more views than them, when that's obviously not the case because his channel had had been dead for years. As a matter of fact, the last time he talked about them, he complained about them punching down and attacking smaller channels, but now he was bragging about being more famous than them. Then he says he could sue them to take their video down because he's a veteran of Desert Storm. I think this video was the Elmer's glue talking, not him. A few months later, in November 2019, Ethan posted another video where he expressed he wanted to get Shoenice on the podcast, but was apprehensive to do so because he wasn't sure what version of Shoenice would show up. The funny guy who eats tampons, or the psychotic homeless man who screams at strangers on the internet. Ethan's producer had this to say.
I mean, he sent me an email that said, I am the most non-violent person in the world. I run from confrontations.
Okay.
And that he's been going through a lot.
Remember, this is the same guy who said he could beat everyone's and fought 20 cops on PKA. Speaking of PKA, one of the things he mentioned
most non-violent person in the world, though. Most non-violent person in the world.
There was that he was once mistakenly diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but judging from his behavior towards H3, it's possible that diagnosis wasn't a mistake at all. Ignoring their better judgment, everyone in the H3 podcast ultimately wanted Shoenice on, if he could guarantee he wouldn't go crazy. And a week later, it happened. During the episode, he said his insults at them were simple attempts to get more attention, followed by an apology to Hila over what he'd said about her. To many people's surprise, there was actually no friction between Shoenice and the host during this conversation, and it was a pretty good interaction with some funny highlights.
Do you look back on your childhood
Oh my
fondly,
God.
or are you
Come
glad
back.
that you're now an adult on your own?
Never ever a time when I look back at my childhood. My father led his life by his. My mom was a drunk in a Chevy van. She'd go on cruises, and we were left home alone on a farm. We were kicked out of so many apartment buildings for shutting the power down when women were on oxygen tanks. We were on the front paper for stuff.
Any thoughts about the Trump admin potentially accepting a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar? Based?
Forest fire in a mountain. But I'm telling you right now, bro. What was the question?
Much like with PKA, he also provides a lot more details about his life that were either unknown or poorly documented. He elaborates on how he injured his back and got on pills, saying he fell through a skylight and got a settlement of $500,000, which he says he immediately blew on weed, video games, and St. Bernard dogs for his kids. For most people, $500,000 is the kind of money that's going to take years, if not decades, to spend. And that's if you invest none of it. I get that kind of money that's going to games and St. Bernard dogs for his kids. For most people, $500,000 is the kind of money that's going to take years, if not decades, to spend. And that's if you...
Damn, that's a rich person or a poor person or just a whatever person's take. I think anything under $1 million, given as a one-time payment, I think you can blow through this money surprisingly fast. Even if you're not used to having a lot of money, 100K can be gone basically instantly. I think 500K, I think, can be gone pretty quickly too. If you're stupid with money, whew, you can lose that real fast.
You invest none of...
In your experience, is it more comfortable, time, money, less headache, to fly from EU airports or US airports? I think they're actually pretty similar. If anything, EU might be a little bit better because of you don't have to take your shoes off usually, but I think otherwise, I think they're generally pretty similar-ish.
$1 million is the kind of money that's going to take years, if not decades, to spend. And that's if you invest none of it. I get that Chris was paying for his whole family for a while, but still, it's hard to believe he made $500,000 evaporate that fast, to the point he was now completely broke and relying on donations to not be homeless. After about an hour of Shoenice speaking on 2x speed with his earbud mic taped to his chin, occasionally eating some toilet paper or a gigantic peanut butter cup, he got off the call because his power was about to get cut. For the time being, this looks like a pretty decent development in favor of Shoenice, as both Ethan and Hila expressed they felt a lot better about him, feeling empathy for his situation with his family and wanting to see him make a comeback. If you weren't familiar with the kind of guy who Shoenice was, you could easily come away from this podcast thinking things were looking up, holding out some hope that the guy would be able to redeem himself. Unfortunately, he fell right back into his old ways. Shoenice uploaded a now deleted video where he claimed his appearance on the podcast was a troll and he was just stringing Ethan along.
Based.
We did it, guys. We did it.
Schizo King.
We trolled H3H3. What a loser. What a fucking scrubneck. Disrespects people like me. I win, Ethan. I win. I will always win against H3H3. Because that's who I am. I'm a legend.
I guess this is the narrative he has to spin to avoid admitting he basically begged to be on Ethan's show. And this
What's the largest amount of money you regret blowing? Probably the first year I was streaming when I made 100K. I feel like that money disappeared really quickly, but it was like on like flights and food and stuff. But other than that, the thing is, I just because of my lifestyle, I just don't spend much money on anything. So I don't.
Same video, he mocks Ethan's Tourette's, claiming that Ethan is faking it. Which
Taxes, that's the one.
Begged to be on Ethan's show. In the same video, he mocks Ethan's Tourette's, claiming that Ethan is faking it, which I don't even really understand. Additionally, Ethan showed the dozens of emails he'd been sending them, the majority of which are just him begging to be on the show, with the last few having the subject line filled out with phrases like, I always win, and bye-bye losers.
Damn.
Despite all of that, the H3 crew actually continued to sympathize with him, pointing out that he's
How long did it take you to buy your first home? I bought my first home when I was 19. Me and my ex were both working, and I was a supervisor at a restaurant. I was working like 60 hours a week. Plus, they were doing FHA loans at the time, and Obama had his like $8,000 first-time homebuyer tax credit. So, woo.
Losers. Despite all of that, the H3 crew actually continued to sympathize with him, pointing out that he's a damaged guy with a lot of issues who may not be aware of how much he hurts himself with these stunts. Given how H3 made it clear they actually wanted to have him on the show, Shoenice probably could have come on again, which would have greatly helped him rebuild the online presence he once had. But instead, he chose to squander it, opting to beat his chest and claim victory over Ethan, though the only thing he successfully did was not behave like a lunatic for about 30 minutes once. This really clarifies his mindset. Whenever he tells someone a lie or tricks them into engaging with him, it's a win in his book, and he's too proud to see it any other way, even if he's at rock bottom. Unsurprisingly, his newest channel has continued to flounder in obscurity over the past 4 years, partly because of his obnoxious behavior, and partly because he barely even makes new content, instead just re-uploading his greatest hits and hoping they'll go viral. And this is where the Shoenice story basically falls off a cliff.
Damn.
In 2021, a man with his same name who lives in the same place he does was arrested for a misdemeanor, though it's somewhat difficult to tell.
How far does AK go in a first-time home buying? Isn't that a drop of the bucket? Fuck no. It's for your, it goes hugely. FHA loans, you could finance it down to, I think, a 0% down payment. Or I think commonly down to like 3 to 5% down payment. And then if you're getting $8,000 tax credit as well, that helps a lot for a down payment.
With his same name who lives in the same place he does was arrested for a misdemeanor, though it's somewhat difficult to tell if this is actually him. One of the most recent videos on his channel is supposedly an announcement of his retirement, but in the actual video, he clarifies he's been sober for a year and is getting in shape for a YouTuber boxing fight that will get him his clout back.
Damn.
It's unclear who he'll
He's
be
in
fighting,
Creator Class
and
3.
honestly,
He's gonna be a new headliner
himself, since he mentions it might be YouTuber Steve will do it or someone else entirely. Soon after, he says he's no longer on YouTube and is now uploading to TikTok, adding that he had one of his accounts taken down, which he blames H3H3 for, despite them not having anything to do with it. Unfortunately, that's what he chose to let himself amount to. A few funny videos from a decade ago, and a whole lot of incoherent belligerence in between. It didn't have to be like this. Shoenice could have turned the videos of him being funny into a real career for at least a few years, but that's not what he did. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, thank y'all for watching. Bye.
Hater. Major hater. Oh.